talk all day, but that's
Yeah.
the business.
What's up, everybody? This is episode 88 of Hoops Talk with Dave's Joint. Shout outs to everybody that's been supporting the wave so far. For those who haven't seen any of our episodes, go check us out on YouTube, Facebook, and IGTV. But before we start, shout outs to our guys, the Players Circle. They're the new innovative thing for basketball. They're a brand new app on the App Store. College coaches, kids of all ages, AAU coaches. If you ever want to see some highlights for the kids, go download this app right now, the Players Circle. But without further ado, we have a very special guest tonight. He's a native of the Bronx, played at Laurinburg Instiute, played Division I college basketball at St. Francis University, NEC, Go Red Flash. Played 8 years overseas professionally in Mexico, Finland, Denmark, Portugal, ABA and CBA, and then started coaching at Cecil College in Maryland, and is currently the head coach at Penn State Wilkes Barre, where he has a national championship. Today, we have with us Mr. LeShawn Hammett. Coach, thank you for coming on to share your testimony.
Thank you, man, for having me. I appreciate it. I'm on it. I know you interviewed some big dogs, so I'm very honored. I appreciate the interview.
Indeed. So my very first question for you is, what's LeShawn Hammett's coaching philosophy?
Players first. To put the players first, put the players in the best position to succeed. Build relationships. One of the things that we're really big on is accountability, respect, and family. If you come play in my program, we definitely gonna treat you with those things. We're always gonna hold you accountable. We always gonna give you much respect, and we're gonna treat you like family. For me, it's bigger than basketball. Another one of my coaching philosophy I say is I'm big on development. I know every coach wants to win, so that's a part of the coaching philosophy. Just off the strength that no one plays the game not to win. But development. Anybody can coach talent, but to be able to get guys that are not as talented and develop them into being really good talented players. I've been able to do a really good job of having an eye for talent and an eye for guys who not always dominant or rough guys, but under the radar guys who actually we develop into talented players.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really just building a foundation that puts the players in a position to be overall successful on and off the court.
So let's start from the very beginning. So talk about, when did basketball first start for you?
Basketball probably started for me around, I won't say 8 or 9 years old. It didn't really get serious around them. I think it was probably just something that I did because, at that age, growing up in the 80s and, late 80s and the early 90s, it was more or less you played every sport. You played baseball, football, whatever ball somebody had outside, you played. But, we played basketball. I went to PS31. So we played basketball every day at lunchtime in the yard and stuff like that. And then around, I want to say maybe around 11, 12, when I got to junior high school, I think that's when it became like tunnel vision almost, because I remember going to IS 183 and my 6th grade year, we had tryouts and it's like 70 kids in the gym. And I'm talking about I went to a school that had guys from Patterson Projects, Mitchell's, Marhaven, Jackson Projects, Melrose, and Maria Lopez. So you got guys from all over, South Bronx going to one junior high school. And it's, you got the best of the best in there. And at that time, IS 183 was one of those places where everybody who went there was going to high school and having success. But at the same time, it was a place where 7th and 8th, like a lot of 8th graders were on a team. Mm-hmm. And Reggie Howard at the time was the coach. Mr. Howard, man, and he was affiliated with the Gauchos at the time, and he was, also coaching. He had played, he did some stuff with the Knicks, so he was a very respectable coach. And I made the team. I was only sixth grade on the team. The team was full of eighth graders and just me being a sixth grader. And I went through a really, really season of learning, playing organized basketball, really getting good at it. And then that summer, I wound up playing for the Gauchos underneath Reggie Howard and Dave Jones. And I think that's when it really started to turn for me, because I started to evaluate how good I was and how hard I had to work. I mean, shoot, I was around guys, Carl Nickerson, Majestic Map, Ernest Brown. I was really around, that's just to name a few, but I was around guys that were really, really good. I can't remember Muggsy's last name, but it was a guy named Muggsy. Like, I was around guys that were really good at the time, and it was like, okay, I'm playing on a really good team. I'm a little younger than guys, maybe a year or two, and we all around the same age. So now it's like, it started to build up for me where I really started to see, okay, this is what I want to do. Like, these guys are good. I've been playing with older guys all winter, and having Mr. Howard really helped, because I knew him outside of outside of the Gauchos, but I also knew him playing in the Gauchos. So at 13, it was kind of like, that's when it really hit me, like, all right, this is what I want to do. And so for me, that was kind of when it started. I mean, playing in the park, you always played in the park. My where I'm from in my projects, for you to get on that big court, you got to be nice. So it kind of fueled me, it fueled me to want to, get on that court. But I was exposed to the Gauchos Riverside Wars very, very early. So I wanted to switch sides at one point for good, but I had no choice. I was strong. I was strong arm. Coach Bingo Maxwell, Coach Bingo, everybody knew him as. He lived in my project, so I would see him all the time at the pizza shop, grocery store, and he pretty much told me I couldn't play at Gauchos no more. I had to come to Riverside, and I had that was the exact way he said. Ain't no way you're gonna keep walking by me playing for Gauchos, and you got to come to the church.
I gotta talk to Bingo about that too.
Yeah, he'll tell you. And Dana Jones played at All Hollows, and then they played some D2 basketball. He's from my neighborhood, and his best friend was Diary Wilson, who played at Rice back in the day. And they kind of grabbed me up. And one Saturday, I went to Riverside for a practice, and I never went back to Gauchos ever since. That team was. I don't know how other people feel about it, but to me it was a special era. I I played at the church with Kevin Bell, who we still talk to this day, and he was a monster. Kenny Satt, his story. He was amazing, and and I played with some guys down there, at the church that was just, Kyle Cuff was there. There was some really good guys, and Glover. There was some real good guys. So it was like, and I kind of vibe with them a little bit different than everybody else. Even though Carl Nickerson and me, we still cool to this day. Like, that's my guy. Like, love that man. He was a big brother from day one.
Shout out to Nick Jr.
C Nick Jr. That's my guy, man. He took me in. He was actually one of the reasons why I did a small, quick stint at St. Ray's. And it was honestly, it was because I love playing with him.
We're gonna talk about St. Ray's first later. But talk about growing up in the Patterson Projects.
Growing up in Patterson at that time was interesting. It was, it was before it got as bad. I'm not gonna say, I hate to say where I'm from is bad, but as bad as it is now. It was very competitive. And I think that was one of the things that always driven me, was that it was competitive. Like, no matter what sport you played, it was competitive. For me, I remember, like I said, Saturdays and Sunday morning, rec in the spring and the summertime, we had two courts in the back park. We called it the back park. And in the back park, if you was good, you could play on one court. If you was really good, and the older dudes, they played on the other court. And,
the goal. It was almost like back then, like the G League and the NBA.
Yeah, I know that court. I know exactly what it's that one court. I know exactly what that is. That court with all the buildings around it. It's not the court on 143rd.
Nah, it's the other one.
Yeah, I know exactly which court you're talking about.
Back in the day, you used to have 4 courts, and then as we got older, it became 1 court, and it was war, man. I played with some guys that's probably that never really came up probably across none of your stuff or everybody else's, but you know, I played with guys like Ralph Jackson and guys that, you know, decided to do other things in life, but probably was some tough guys. But back to playing at Patterson, I mean, some of the guys growing up, Bruce Sims, you know, he played at Jane Addams, probably the greatest player ever played there. Kerry Thompson, they called him the controller. He played at Florida State. He's from Haven. He was always playing in my neighborhood, in my projects. Eric Harris, who was like a mentor growing up. Who, you know, so it was a lot of good guys like those, but it was guys even just as good as them, maybe even better, that didn't get the same, you know, chances. And you know, life happens and things happen, but you know, growing up there for me, it was just basketball. You know, I stayed away from the street shit. I stayed away from all the other stuff. You know, I had a good surrounding of people around me. You know, my father had a barbershop in the neighborhood. So I kind of knew everybody from just being from my father being a kind of legend in the neighborhood. So for me, it was like, I didn't really have, like, even if I wanted to do street shit, I ain't have no time to do it because guys was like, hey man, I'm gonna tell your father, or everybody knew me from ball. So it was 24/7 basketball, you know, and then having, you know, Kerry Thompson, like I said, Bruce Sims, you know, and Eric Harris as like kind of like mentors, Lance Robinson. I had a lot of guys that was around me that kind of like seen me in them, seen themselves in me, and it kind of like took me underneath their wings. So it was, you know, for me, it was just like, hey, you know, but growing up in Patterson was always tough, always competitive, no matter what we did. You know, it could be bike riding, it could be popping woolies, it could be, you know, whatever it was always going to be competitive. And I think that's where my competitive nature came from, you know, and the toughness came from.
So you went to IS 183 on Morris Avenue.
Yes, sir.
I you know, it's funny because I was a part of the inaugural class of MS 224, which is
the school
now
that was inside.
Right.
Yeah.
So when I was a 6th grader, before we moved from Clark to Berger, we was at 183 first.
Okay.
So yeah, talk about 183.
That was great times. Honestly, it was to me, it was funner than high school because at that time in life, it's not a business yet. It's not political. You just going to school every day and just, you know, hanging. And for me, like basketball wise, you playing kind of with the same guys you grow up with and you play with in the park. It's just now more structured and organized. I think the difference for me playing with my friends in the park and playing, you know, on IS and playing was that I was probably out of like 6 or 7 guys that I really, really, really hung out with. I probably was the only one that was really playing big time AAU basketball. Like I was with church. So for me, it was like, you know, we hung out and we played like in the park. But when it was time to like weekends or tournaments, I was going to the church, or I got a game in Kips Bay or UDC or something like that. I was away from the hood, you know, away from Patterson. But so it was fun when I went to 183 because I got to play with my friends. You know, I got to play with guys other than the guys that I grew up with. So for me, it was like that was that moment where it was like, it was almost like just being with my friends. And then, you know, on Saturday, you know, we're going to play during the week. And then on Saturday, I know I got to go to Riverside, you know, or Gauchos or something like that. So it was, it was a cool experience. I mean, for me, it was pretty much the same. It was like, for you, it was different because you're not from the neighborhood. So it's like you went there as your high school. For us, it was kind of like, it was the same guys I went to the community center with, the same guys I was playing, you know, I was playing tag with and basketball with. Now we just sitting in the classroom together.
Yeah.
You know. So
yeah, man. I had funny thing is I'm actually from, I want to say 10 minutes up the block on Beekman. And I spent many, I had some childhood friends before they moved to Colorado. I used to be in Patterson quite a bit. But yeah, man, shout outs to the Patterson Projects.
Patterson Projects, man.
A lot of history in that neighborhood, yeah.
I was down there last Monday. And that's definitely not the place I grew up. But I mean, I still walk through the park. I still walk through there, and it really brings back memories. It's changed a lot, you know, but it was definitely a bright spot, even though it was a lot of darkness, you know, growing up down there.
Y'all had a lot of people that came out that neighborhood. AG from Showbiz in
AG, Party Artie.
Tiny Archibald. Iran Barkley, the boxer.
You got
Guy Fisher. Back home.
Who's actually home now. Ross Strickland. Eric Harris. Kerry Thompson. You got you got a lot of guys. You got a lot of greats that came from that area, man.
Percy P, the rapper.
Prince Royce. I think that's his name.
Yeah, he's from
right up the street.
That's crazy. He's actually from the hood, and I didn't know about that.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
I didn't know who he was until when he started blowing up. It was just talks around the neighborhood that he was from the neighborhood, and I said,
that's crazy.
When they said where he's from, but yeah, you got some, and we got some up and coming rappers. We got some guys doing some stuff behind closed doors. I mean, you got Wally World and Dana and D Jones, who they doing a lot of plays now, and they're doing like I think they're doing a pilot for a Netflix special. So they, you got some guys that's got their hands in all type of different things in the area. I hope I ain't forget nobody. I know guys like you didn't tell me, but we had a lot of great guys. I mean, it's definitely it's definitely a place of a hustle. You know, Patterson Projects was a hustle. We taught you how to grind and taught you how to work hard. I tell people all the time, if it wasn't for a lot of the life lessons that I got from just having to grind or having to work or having to, fight for the things that I wanted, I wouldn't be the person I am today, man. Patterson has definitely created the person that I am today. The good and the bad, man. I've seen a lot of good. I've seen a lot of bad.
Yeah.
But it, drove me to be the person I am today for sure.
Absolutely, man. So let's talk about the 57-point game against Mount St. Michael all right, so tell me the year and let's talk about the game.
I want to say it was 94.
Okay.
We in the Mount St. Michael's Classic, and I just get buckets. I don't know. It wasn't planned. It wasn't a let me go try to score, a certain amount of points. It was I got hot. I played with a point guard named Ralph Jackson. We call him Bet, from my neighborhood, and he's probably one of the best point guards I've ever played. That I've played with or against that didn't play, collegiately or in high school or anything like that. But he pretty much got me the ball every single possession, and I found a way to either hit a three, get out in transition, make a layup, and it was just score. He was still to this day one of my best friends, but also one of the guys that he just knew how to find me. He just knew how to find me. I played with another guy named Giovanni Martinez, who was another pass first point guard, and those dudes I just got out in transition. I made threes, I made layups, and honestly, I didn't know I had so much points till I got to like 53. And I remember like getting to the free throw line and Ralph just saying like, yo, you got 53 points. You got 53 points. And I'm like, oh, man. And it was like at the end of the game, you know, they come over and say, yo, you broke a record and it's 57 points. And my life changed after that. You know, you know, in the neighborhood, everybody talked about it. Mr. Howard, he wouldn't let it go. Like I was ready to get to the next game. And Reggie Howard just kept going and going. He talked about it. We get to school on Monday. They talking about it on the, you know, on the thing, on the PA announcement. Yeah. And my life changed, and I say it changed because it was like I started to hear from prep schools and boarding schools. Riverside tried to get me to go to Mount Carmel.
Yeah.
And
what
knock on wood today, you know, looking back now at the way basketball, you know, kind of goes, I probably should have went. I didn't want to leave my friends.
You didn't want to leave the neighborhood, yeah.
I didn't want to leave the neighborhood. And it wasn't even about the neighborhood. It was like, hey, man, why can't I play with my friends? Why can't I win with my friends? You know, and my parents allowed me to make the decision, which I thought was real cool, because I didn't think that, I'm honestly speaking, I didn't think that my parents was going to allow me to make the decision. I thought that it was free, you know, no, they wasn't going to have to pay fine. And the crazy thing is I knew the guys that were there. I knew Majestic Matt was there, and I knew Majestic was good. Like, I played with him when we were, like, a year or two ago. Like, I was just on his, you know, his Gauchos team. And I knew, you know, I knew KB was there. I knew Mike Boynton was there. Like, those guys were a little older, but I knew those guys. So, you know, from either playing with them or playing against them. And, you know, I knew Julius Allen was there. That's my guy, Jules. Julius Allen is one of my guys. We actually wound up going to school together at Laurinburg. And
okay. Julius Crossland, my God.
Yeah. And for me, it was like, man, those guys is good. And I know how good I could be and they could be. And I was getting better because of those guys. You know what I mean? Drake Barrett as well was there. Like, he was like, you know, when they were there. But it was like, I know I'm probably missing like 10 other guys, but like guys was there. And at that specific moment in time, it was more or less like, I know how much better I got when I got to Riverside and I was playing with KB and those guys. I know how much my game increased when I had went to Gauchos and was with C. Nick and Majestic and those guys. And I know if I go there, I'm going to get better, but I like it here at this, like, I like being with my friends. And I already had, you know, talks with, you know, Eric Harris and Kerry Thompson and Bruce Sims, who were all guys that in my neighborhood, in my ear, that high school, I was going to wind up having to, like, separate myself from those guys anyway, because they weren't going to be able to go to the schools I was going to attract. So for me, it was like, you know, all right, cool. You know, I want to do this, but I don't want to leave my friends. And I chose to stay. And, you know, what's funny is, the irony is we play in a Riverbank tournament about a year later, my 8th grade year. And we end up losing to Mount Carmel. It's funny. And after we lost, I'm not going to front, on that 19 bus ride home, I thought about, like, damn.
I should have went over there.
I should have went over there. But then I thought about it like, damn, I'd have been a guy like in the movies, like All American. Like, I'm playing against my friends. You know what I mean? I had to beat my friends like he did at the end of the first season of that, like, TV show. But I don't regret it. I mean, looking back at it, it's like, yeah, if I did things different, maybe life could have been different, but I don't think so. I mean, I think it would have still ended the same way because I still was underneath the Riverside umbrella, you know? So for me, it was kind of like, okay, I'm still covered, you know? So, and I was like, you know what? I appreciate the opportunity. Coach Thurman player was like, hey, you need to do that. And I was like, nah, I'm just going to do it like this. Now, I will say one of my cousins wound up coming through the church after years after that, and he had the option, and I made him do it. You know, I was probably in high school, and I was like, dude, you got to go. Like, you know, but I don't take it as things would have, you know how some people say, well, I regret this because things would have been different. I don't think things would have been different, but I think my experience maybe would have been a little different. You know, I'm one of those guys now that I kind of think in life where the more good play, you know, if you're the best player in the gym, leave. go find a gym where you're not the best player.
Right.
And I kind of feel like at that time in my life, maybe that's what I did. I kind of stayed in the gym being the best player when I should have took off. But it was an amazing experience. Honestly, I haven't talked about that 57, but every now and again it'll come up when I run into Ralph Jackson. We'll bullshit and talk about it, or but shout outs to him. I played with some many great players. He was probably like the funnest person to play around. I think if we went outside, we went and played in the park right now, he's still gonna find me. He just didn't pursue basketball the way I did, which is unfortunate because I thought he was probably one of the best players I played against every day and played with.
So as a youth, what were some of your favorite tournaments to play in?
I loved Citywide, right there on 120. It's like 123rd Street when you first come across the bridge. That was pretty cool. In the city, Citywide, Rucker on 145th Street, UDC up on 216 or up there.
Yeah.
I think those to me, that was like my favorite three. Not for any like any other reasons, but those were ones that I won so many times playing with Riverside. I also grew up in an era. I know some of the kids that's gonna watch this. It was no Lightning. It was no this. It was no that. It was
maybe 4 or 5 AAU.
Maybe like 4 or 5 AAU teams, and the rest was kind of like small neighborhood teams. It was Riverside. It was Gauchos. It was Brooklyn Queens Express. It was Minnesink. It was Millbank. It was Kips Bay. I can't remember. AIM. I think the AIM High. It wasn't a lot of crossovers. Oh, Gauchos Round Ball. I forgot about Round Ball. Round Ball was another classic tournament to play in as a young kid for sure. Just because of Gauchos being so legendary, and growing up, you go there. I mean, as biddies, 13 under, 15 and under, you go there and you watch I watched Tim Thomas play and Stephon Marbury and Felipe Lopez and Kevin Freeman and, Gary Saunders and guys like that. Like, you see those guys playing, and it's just like Shamgon and Ron and, Eric Chatfield. Like, you see those guys and it's like I want to play on here one day, and so Round Ball was one of those events for sure, because then that's when you got the Patterson Catholics and all those other teams from across the bridge that will come and play. So it's kind of a mixture, for sure. So I say my top 4 is Round Ball, UDC, Rucker, Citywide. Those was definitely my top 4 that I want to say off the top of my head. There was the hood tournaments,
You can talk about those two. It's okay. You can talk about those two.
Bass Memorial in Clark Park, down on 144th Street. That tournament was like that. It was the best kids in our neighborhood, Cypress, Millbrook, everywhere. It was kind of all Hunger Games, pretty much. It's sad to say, but every drug dealer, every neighborhood dude that had some money put his own team in a tournament. Yeah. And you got recruited to play, and you wasn't always gonna play with your friends no more. I actually got a chance to play with my boy Ralph Jackson. I'm gonna talk about him again. That's still to this day one of my best friends. But we played. I scored all those points. Through his assists and stuff like that. And then for like 3 years in a row, we win bats. We win our little division because they went all the way up, like 16 and under, unlimited, whatever. So we win ours, and we let the streets convince us that us two shouldn't play on the same team. We should play against each other, and it wound up not drawing a wedge between us as friends, but we both don't even make it. I think that's the one year we don't win. neither one of us won the championship, and it was literally because we both should have been on the same team, and we let street people convince us not to play on the same team. But,
street politics, wow.
Yeah, you know how it goes. You know, people join in his ear, people join in mine. And it's like, oh, y'all can't win without each other, and we pulled the KD Westbrook, and we both go somewhere else, and we don't win together, which you know, a bit fucked up, but we joke about it all the time, you know, because we took the joint three years in a row. But to me, that was a dope tournament. I mean, it was every Saturday and Sunday in our neighborhood, right there in Clark Park, and it was our rucker. You know, we had a guy named Jabbar who passed away, God rest his soul, and a guy named Jim Jack who does a lot of stuff in our neighborhood. You know, he's been a big brother and a mentor to a lot of guys in our neighborhood, man. And another one of my favorite point guards to play with, but that was the whole unlimited level. He was the guy, but you know, they were guys that was on the microphone. They got the kids hype, and it was something to keep us out the streets. You know, guys wasn't selling drugs. We wasn't doing stuff because we had guys like Jabbar and Jim Jack and you know, LB Logo, and we just had a lot of guys in our neighborhood that just was at that stage in their life where they had did the things that they didn't want us to do. And they pretty much put us all in a position to just worry about basketball. And it was, to me, basketball was pretty much a tough tournament, you know, neighborhood tournament. It wasn't one of those tournaments where AAU teams was in it. There was no Gauchos, there was no Riverside. It was just the neighborhood teams. The drug dealers and the dudes who had the 9 to 5 that had been watching us, you know, play every day. They just started recruiting different neighborhoods. And it kind of was like a neighborhood tournament. Everybody on their block or their building had a team. Cypress, Millbrook. You know, it was pretty cool. One of my favorite tournaments, you know. I gained a lot of friends that wasn't from our neighborhood, you know, through playing, you know, and some enemies. You know how I go. But it made me, like I said, man, Patterson made me into the person that I am today, man. You know, and the guys that was there, you know, there's so many guys I can name, but Patterson created the person that I am today, the basketball that I play at I am today. I'm not who I am if I don't, you know, Riverside and Gauchos played a huge part in my life, but it was Patterson Projects that made me the basketball player that I am today. You know, shit, I won a national championship and brought the trophy back to the projects. I sat it on the bench and took a picture. Had to, you know, that's where it all started. You know, it made, you know, I played against some guys that made me look good, but I also played against some guys that made me tougher, you know, made me stronger, made me hungry, you know, and I built my respect there. And I was one of those dudes where if I could take what they were giving out every day, I could do it anywhere. And that's kind of how I felt throughout my whole career, you know.
So, what led you to go to St. Ray's?
Honestly, at the time, it was Rice, Christ the King, St. Ray's, LaSalle. That's it. If I'm missing anybody, Catholic high school, CHSA, gonna just have to be mad. Cardinal Hayes was a football school.
They were right up the block too.
And right up the street. I could have been in Cardinal Hayes in a 7-minute walk, but it was a football school. Right. You know, at the time it was in the B division. You know, you didn't really hear much other than Jamal Mashburn. You didn't hear anything else about, you know, them. At the time, a lot of my friends were there, or guys that I associated with, rather. Kevin, Majestic Matt was there. Ernest Brown was there. Carl Nickerson was there, which was really one of my real good friends. Like, I played with C. Nick and everything. You know, if there was a tournament in my neighborhood and we needed a big man, I was calling C. Nick. You know, if it was a tournament in C. Nick's neighborhood, I was going to play with C. Nick. You know what I mean? It was like that. And Eric Harris is from my neighborhood. You know, we lived like 2 buildings away from each other. And Pooh I had just watched his career over like the last 3 or 4 years. You know, I watched him beat Felipe in the championship. I watched him have success there. I watched him go to Minnesota from there. And for me, he was like at the time, him, Kerry Thompson, and Bruce Sims were the best players in our neighborhood. No disrespect to all the other guys. Like, there's other guys that were just as good as them, but they was doing it on that stage. Bruce Sims was killing the B division in the PSAL. You know, I just watched Kerry kill at Walton, you know, growing up. And then I watched him at Florida. You know, I watched him at Tallahassee and Florida State. And I'm watching his name, his buzz is crazy at the Rucker. They called him the controller. And I see Pooh, who's playing on the USA Junior Olympic team, you know, playing with the Gauchos. He's in my neighborhood every Sunday playing basketball with the regular guys. And his dad was one of my, like, tournament coaches. Mr. Harris was one of my tournament, you know, we played, you know, tournaments with him. And Pooh reaches out to Gary DeCesar. I go visit the school. And who do I see? Nick's there, you know, and all these dudes that I had childhood relationships with, where it's like, all right, I'm gonna try it, but it just wasn't for me. The Catholic school part was a little bit thrown off. You know, maybe if, like, again, we talked about Mount Carmel, maybe if I hit Mount Carmel, maybe I would have been able to just, like, it was a lot for me. It was the first, also too, it was the first time that basketball didn't feel like basketball. It felt like it was a business. Right. You know, I'm a Riverside kid playing on a Gauchos team that's on a St. Raymond's team full of Gauchos guys. Yeah. So for me, I just didn't feel comfortable.
And then at that time, yeah. So also, it was an all-boys school. That's another thing.
It was an all-boys school, yeah. Yeah. So it was, to me, honestly, Dave, it was a culture shock. You know, I didn't go to Catholic school. I had just went to a public junior high school where I was with all my friends, like real friends. Like, we wasn't just hanging out playing ball. We was doing other things. Other than see Nick, I really didn't have an off-the-court relationship with none of the guys at St. Raymond's. Even though we were playing with guys, even when we were together at Gauchos, I didn't have that relationship with them. See, Nick, we did everything even outside of, you know, basketball shit. The first beer I ever had of liquor, it was with C. Nick. You know what I mean? And, you know, like, we were really friends. So for me, when I got there, it was like, you can't wear your hair like this. You can't have tattoos, the beard. A school with all boys, you know, if you get there after 8 o'clock, you got to stay. You was a deal
with Sadia too.
Yeah, you got to deal with Sadia. And it was just, at that point, it was like, what the hell's going on? Yeah. And I ran for the hills, you know, and then the basketball stuff, it was different. I was used to also playing the way I was comfortable playing the way I wanted to play. So it was just a lot. It was no disrespect to Gary DeCesar. I thought he's an amazing coach. He was what I needed because he was tough and he didn't give a shit. And I did need the structure, but I wasn't ready for it. And a lot of things with me it didn't sit comfortable. And then I also kind of felt, other than see Nick, and I'm not putting this on any of the players, and this, because this is no cop out on them, but I never really felt comfortable there. And again, it was if you went to Gauchos, more than likely you went to the Rays. If you were a Riverside kid, you went to Rice. And if you didn't go to Rice, it was because you was from Queens and you went to Christ the King. And I knew damn well I wasn't getting on nobody's train that early in the morning to go to Middle Village every day. Yeah. So at that moment, I just realized, I looked around and it just wasn't for me. It was legendary. I mean, we got all of the gear, the exposure. They were building they had just built the facility they were in.
Oh, so you got there when the new gym had already been built.
Okay. They were just putting the finishing touches on the building. And I just, I haven't seen Majestic in almost 25 years. Wow. If I seen them there tomorrow, it's been a very long time. You know, Vaughn Hunter was there, God rest Vaughn Hunter. So Vaughn was another guy that I kind of like was kind of big brothers because he just joked around. He played around a lot. So it was like, he was real cool, but it was like, I just didn't feel comfortable. And I got with Bingo about it, you know, because he was he was from my neighborhood, and he was like a big, you know, it was like a father figure. And I just told Bingo I just didn't feel comfortable with being there. It just didn't feel like it was for me. And I was like, listen, I can submit to all the things they're asking me to do, but I just don't feel like it's comfortable for me. And Mike McAway at the time, I don't know, he was leaving UC Irvine at the time. He was the associate head coach at UC Irvine. He was a Riverside guy. He was the guy that was coaching one of the top teams with Mr. Lloyd. And Mike McAway had took the Laurinburg job. And Bingo basically said to me, hey, listen, we got about 5 or 6 guys that you know going to Laurinburg. And would you be willing to go to Laurinburg? And I'm like, well, where's Laurinburg at? I never heard of it at the time. And he's like, dude, he turned to me, what you mean you never heard of Laurinburg? Then he bring up the GOAT, Charlie Scott, and all these NBA players that played there. And I'm like, no, I never heard of it, but it was an option to get out of where I was at. And you know, I talked to Eric Harris about it. I thanked him for his help, and I thanked him for, you know, for being in my corner. But he said, you know, he understood. But he was also a guy that had been through the Catholic ringer since, like, you know, 6th grade, 5th, 6th grade, so a little bit. And then, so for me, it was like I took the Laurinburg door. And after that, everything just took off. You know what I mean? It took off for me, and you know, it was solid. You know, I got a chance to play with.
Oh, your screen went black for a second.
No, I'm still here. Go on.
Oh, okay. I got a chance to go to Laurinburg with some guys that I was kind of familiar with, and also kind of guys where it just was a more comfortable setting for me. Academics wasn't the problem. You know, it wasn't nothing other than I just didn't, you know, I didn't feel comfortable. You know, I talked to, you know, I talked to Nick about it, and Nick pretty much was like, hey, just do what you feel like is best for you. And I went to Laurinburg, and that was a bit different because you now, you know, 16, 17, and you're not in the state you're from. You know, but it was pretty cool. It was a good experience, you know. I hope that answers it. But yeah, it was yeah.
Let's talk about Laurinburg.
Sure.
How was it like going down there? Like, did you have to take, like, in the movie Rebound, Earl Manigault, he took a long bus ride down there, and they dropped him off in the woods. And then he had to walk all the way to the school, and he said, "Oh, there's half of Harlem down here." Like, what was your experience going down there?
Hold on one second. Sorry. So for me, let me close this door. For me, to be honest, it was. I didn't know what to expect. Other than I was going to be in North Carolina. Now, my family is from the South. You know, my mom and dad are from North Carolina. My mom is from South Carolina. My dad is from North Carolina. So for me, the first thing it really was, okay, I'm going to be going to school in the South. I didn't think about my friends at that point or what I was giving up, because I just thought to myself, you know, this was the door I asked for. I said that I wanted another option, and Bingo gave that to me. You know, you're not gonna be the guy that's gonna turn around and make it seem like you're ungrateful. You know, so at that point, Dave, it was kind of like, okay, I'm gonna go. Now? Was it as dramatic as Rebound? No. I took the train to Fayetteville, and we got picked up in a van, and then we went. It is
I will say this: it is a quiet town. It's very small. The campus is a nice size. They got a nice size campus. I'm gonna date myself because I'm pretty sure some kids are gonna say, "Damn, how old is he?" But we had calling cards. So when I needed to call home, I had to, dial in, boom, 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 boom. And, you got to call, you got to call the 1-800 number. But it was, that was a culture shock, because we talking about, nobody's really got cell phones like that, right, at that specific moment.
Mm-hmm.
So, the competition was dope. We played a lot of good teams. We played a lot of really good players. I got a chance to play against Tracy McGrady at Mount Zion and Dion Glover and some really good teams. Yeah, we played some solid guys. But we had what was cool about it was I went down to Laurinburg with guys that I knew. Either they were older or we were closer in age, either in grade. I think me and Jules was probably we were like the babies, I want to say. It was me, Jules, maybe a couple other guys that was from the city that was probably a little younger than us. Courtney Fields was there with us. At that time, he had committed to Iona. And I don't know how much you know about Courtney, but he was like a 6'7" point guard. Like I had never, at that point, I had never seen, I just said this to a friend of mine. I did another podcast. I was like, yo, I never seen a guy at that time, like 6'7", and it's like, yo, he's the one. Like I remember getting moved over because he was really a floor general at like 6'7", 6'8", and he was so fucking smooth. And when you seen him play, it was like you were cool with being pushed over because you knew that he was as good as he was. You know what I mean? So,
right.
But it was tough at times. Especially being from a city, it's quiet, no noise. The noise.
Yeah, you used to certain. Used to people. Yeah, music playing, Chinese food being thrown on the floor.
Yeah,
people blowing the weed.
And to me, it was like, it's you at that moment in time. I'm sorry, I'm plugging my damn thing.
Nah, go ahead, man. You good?
No, we cool. I just don't want my joint to die. Mm-hmm. But at that moment in time, it was like you looking at it and it's like shit, like you just said, there's no Chinese food restaurant up the street.
Yeah.
There's no, we were walking literally to the store to use the payphone, because the payphone, it was a line to use the payphone on the campus. We was across the street from where regular people were living at, but it was different. I mean, it was cool. I mean, it was soul food, so you in the South, so you eating collard greens and it ain't like eating pizza on Friday like you do, in a public school or a Catholic school. You really getting collard greens and red, white beans and rice and chicken, and it was real southerny, but it had its moments where you had to kind of overlook some of the bad or overlook some of the things you was uncomfortable with just because of, you just knew what you were there for. That was one thing I could say in my prep time is we all knew why we were there. We all knew that some guys was there for grades. Some guys was there for basketball purposes. Some guys, to fix their grades, and some guys was there because, hey, I need schools. And, and you got like me and Jules, we there just like, yo, we just trying to finish our career. Like grades isn't the problem. Mm-hmm. It's more or less about us just putting ourselves in a position to be able to, finish up strong and get the exposure. And, at this time, Jules' pops was at LIU. Mr. Allen was at LIU. So for us, that's kind of what it was. You know what I mean? It was like, okay, we here, we gonna hoop. We just gonna enjoy enjoy everything and just go from there. So it was a great experience. It prepared me for college. Being away from home. Only time I really went south was with my parents. So I was always with my parents. You see your cousins, but your family's there. It showed me how to manage money because your parents will send you money, and you You can't just run through that money. You got to save it. So it kind of, it was prep school, but it was really preparing us to be adults and preparing us, for college. And so to me, it really it came full circle when you look at it now. It did what it was supposed to do, and shout out to Bingo for putting me in a position to go there. He could have easily said, well, you made your bed, you didn't want to go to Rice, you wanted to go to St. Raymond's, or you wanted to go here or there. And I got a chance to go there. We had some success. I played a lot of games. I got a great experience, and I got opportunities out of it. And then for me, I wound up having a kid, so I wound up having to put basketball on the shelf for about a year and a half. And that's why I didn't go Division I out of high school. I wound up going to junior college because after that year and a half, I kind of lost my buzz a little bit. So I had to go back to JUCO and get it back.
So first and foremost, shout out to the Laurinburg Instiute class of 2000. That's when you graduated?
Yes, sir.
Shout out to the class of 2000. So you also shout out to my man Bingo, the Godfather, for pushing you towards
for pushing me towards
Laurinburg.
Yeah, man.
So
Bingo,
your daughter, she was born in 2000?
She was born in 2000.
Oh, so she was born in New York while you were away at school.
Yeah, I had just got back home. So I had just got back. She was born in March, and my life changed. It was more or less like, my parents wanted me to just go to college. Go, don't worry about this, just go to college. But, my father had raised us with, you take care of your responsibilities. No matter what they are, you take care of your responsibilities. And for me, I just couldn't turn my back on it. So it was like, okay, in my mind, I'm thinking, what's a year? And a year turned to like 18 months. And then, now it's time to go to school. And you sit back down with the same group of guys. I sit down with, Kenny Pretlow, who, Kenny P. And, I sit down with Therm, who at this time now is at St. John's. And I talked to, Bingo, and I'm like, hey, man, what you going to do? And I'm like, Bingo's like, yo, you can go to JUCO. At the time, Tony Bergeron and Bingo, they coaching together, and they're at Wings. And I'm just like, all right, well, I didn't want to go to JUCO, but it was like, you know what, if that's what I got to do, that's what I got to do. And so I go to a couple of JUCO showcases. I'm big on showcases. I recruit a lot of kids from showcases, but I go to a showcase in Atlanta and I tear shit up. And I run into Bob Hill, and Bob Hill asked, he knew I was from New York, and they get me on a visit. I qualified academically, so I was solid. He said, well, you got to go to JUCO for a year, and, you got to get the 24 credits. You got to do this, you got to do that. But I think we can get you in for them. So I go, I go on my visit. And what's cool about it is I didn't know Smush. I just heard of him. I seen him play. I didn't have, at that time, I don't think we ever played against each other, but I knew Adrian very well. Adrian Walton.
A Butter.
And, me and A had played, we played a bunch of different places together, the Church Gauchos, played in tournaments together and things like that. And I run into A. And A actually is funny because I was talking to him a few weeks ago, almost maybe 2 months ago, 3 months ago. He gave me my tour on Fordham's campus. Now, mind you, I had been to Fordham, because of Catholic school games, and I can't remember her name, but it was a woman that passed away back in the day. She wrote for the Daily News, and they have a Catholic school event.
Diane Brennan,
yeah. So, so I had been there, played there, whatever. And, but A did my visit. He took me around. He showed me the dorms. He showed me the campus. I seen the gym, gym locker room I had already been in from playing. But he gave my tour. And I watched him play. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, man, A's getting buckets. Smush getting buckets. I can come here and be the point guard, just give them both the ball, And so I commit to Bob Hill. I got to finish the year out. And unfortunately, everything just goes downhill. Smush goes to the draft. A goes to the draft. So the whole dynamics of the team changed. And, I had Fairleigh Dickinson. I had some other small schools, University of Hawaii. I had some good schools coming out of JUCO after my JUCO year. I was 27 a game. And when those two guys left, I didn't know what was going on. And then the newspapers and the media just talked about how either they didn't get along or they had issues, and and Bob Hill wasn't gonna make it. And I'm not gonna front, I was terrified that if I chose this school and he gets fired, the next guy's gonna screw me.
Yeah.
Because
you're not his guy.
I'm not his guy. And and keeping it real, I mean, I coach now, so I know how this game goes. And for me, right then and there, I'm like, all right, screw that shit. I chose not to go. And
smart choice.
It was a very smart choice because 6-7 months later, Bob Hill gets fired. And they brought in.
Was it?
They brought in, I think it was the Wagner coach.
Derek Wittenberg.
Derek Wittenberg gets the job, and I wasn't even being. Maybe if I was being recruited by him at Wagner, it would have been different. Because I had a lot of NEC schools. I had LIU. I had Fairleigh Dickinson. I had St. Francis. Like, I had some schools in the conference, but I didn't have them. And it was like, okay, no, I'm not going to do that. And I almost committed to Fairleigh Dickinson because of the fact that I had 3 years of eligibility because I didn't need to graduate. And I wound up going back. I thought about what I could gain. I gained my associate's degree. I was a few points off from. I was like 400 points off from scoring 1,000. I had 700 in the first year, so it was like I'm gonna get 1,000 with my eyes closed. Most of our team was returning, so we got a chance to win the region again and get back to the national tournament. So I chose to go back, and it was great because I got to stay 2 hours away from home. It's crazy how life takes you in full circle because Luzerne County Community College is in Wilkes Barre, Pennsylvania. And I'm actually coaching now 25 minutes from where, I played my junior college ball at. So, I did that. I wound up, I know you pressed for time, but I did that.
No, I got all night. We good.
I did that. I went to a couple of more. I got invited to the 100, JUCO Top 100. I did Jerry Mullins. I did Rick Ball. I did the one in Atlanta again. And I got my name up even more. I actually had a game where I played against Quintel Woods. Go figure. He makes the league. Motherfucker he was different. And we're playing his team in the showcase, and everybody's watching. When I say everybody, I mean it was NBA scouts. I didn't know he was going to be an NBA player. I just knew that he was good. Like, he was different. You got that T-Mac vibe. I remember, you see T-Mac and everybody say he's the best player, and then T-Mac got out there and showed us why he was the best player when we were at Laurinburg. And now, you're hearing people say, yo, this Quintel Woods dude, he may go to the league. Like, he's an NBA player. So we wound up playing his team, and I had like 26 points. And then everything just started to build. I mean, Santa Clara, I wound up going to visit Santa Clara. I was offered Fresno, offered Youngstown State. Now I'm like, okay, I'm going somewhere. And I just was like, I took all my visits. I was about this close to signing with, I'm talking about so close where it was like, man, my pen was actually on the paper to sign with Santa Clara. And I thought about being that far away from home. The visit was cool, 6-hour flight, being in the Silicon Valley, playing in the beautiful arena, playing for Dick Davey, who's a legendary Division I coach. You know what I mean? I met Steve Nash on my visit, which was crazy.
Wow. That's big right there.
I met Steve Nash and his wife, and I met his two twin daughters at the time. They were babies, and they were little, and it was like I was close. It was just my thoughts of being that far away from home. you know, and it was like, and especially when you got a kid, like, again, like my situation was different. I was raised where you take care of your responsibilities. I know some guys, some of my friends ask me all the time, like, do you regret it? And it's like, no, man, look what I was able to do. Like, I was able to play college basketball, play Division I basketball, play overseas. Now I'm coaching. You know, my story and my testimony is kind of the reasons why I've had success and why I can understand a lot of these kids' failures of success. You know, I wasn't one of those guys that had a big circle where I had everybody in my ear. I made decisions for myself, which is something that we don't see right now in basketball. There's a lot of kids are not making decisions for themselves. Other people are making decisions, you know. And for me, honestly, Dave, it was more or less like just making the right decision for myself and for my kid. And, you know, and I love my daughter. My daughter's 20. My daughter will be 21 next March. And for me personally, you know, it's very difficult to make a decision and not consider my kids at the time. You know what I mean? And, you know, at that time, you know, it was just the right thing to do, you know, and I at the time I felt like I gave up enough, you know, and I was like, I'm not going to give up something else. You know, toward the end of my JUCO career, even my parents being 2.5 hours away, my daughter was coming to games less and less. You know, it was a lot, you know, it was a lot. So it was like, you know, and then St. Francis came in the picture. It was comfort. It was the fact that I could come home and play a few games. You know, you're going to play LIU, you're going to play Wagner, you're going to play St. Francis, New York, you're going to play Monmouth, you're going to play Fairleigh Dickinson. So for me, it was like, I need that. You know what I mean? That sounds like I get to see my daughter, I get to see my family, I get to play. And my crazy ass now, if I had to regret anything in my basketball career, I say I probably should have went to Santa Clara. You know, I should have just said, you know what, I should have went there because, you know, some big games in the WCC could have changed my life. You know, but I don't regret it just because of, you know, my story. But you know, I go on to St. Francis. I have a really good career. I play for a coach that, and go figure, my head coach was one of Eric Harris's assistant coaches at the University of Minnesota.
Wow.
And one day what's crazy was we never talked about it until we were on a trip somewhere and he brought it up. Like, yeah, before here I was at Minnesota, played, you know, he was talking about Clem Haskins and how great of a guy he was and stuff. And I said, wait a minute. I said, you know Clem Haskins? He said, yeah, you know, and just talking shit. I said, yeah, he coached one of my friends is like kind of like a cousin to me. And he said, what's his name? And when I told him it was Pooh, I said, yo, his name's Eric Harris. And he was like, for real. And I got on the phone and I called Pooh and I gave him the phone and they just kept talking and talking. And even though Pooh didn't really like him much, he got on the phone and talked to him. Yeah, wow. I can say that. I can say that now. It's like 20-something years later. But you know, Coach Jones was an all right guy. He wasn't a people person. I will say this. I learned more playing Division I basketball about coaching than I ever thought I would. And being a coach now, a lot of things that I've seen, I was exposed to, and I experienced at that moment has really made me become the coach that I am today. Because I do feel like you see how much it is a business. Yes. I remember being in JUCO. I remember being at, you know, Laurinburg, and I remember, you know, being under Gary DeCesar and his coaching and his care and concern for his players. And being in junior college where everybody's trying to go to another level, but the care and concern. When I got to my Division I, there was no care and concern about you. It was more concern about winning. And I never to this day, I never thought about ever being a coach. You know, when I decided to, you know, start playing professionally, my first thought, to be brutally honest with you, was I just wanted to enjoy my family. You know, just being away from them, being in different countries, being in different states, being away from them. I just wanted to enjoy my kids. I wanted to watch SpongeBob with my sons, and I wanted to take my daughter to dance lessons and things like that. And it just so happens I wound up getting into coaching. But I always said I always said it when I was playing, like if I ever become a coach, I never want to be like this guy. I never want to be like that guy. Like I want to be like this guy, because you felt it every day how much it was a business at the Division I level. Like you feel like it's like you were, I'm not gonna say a number, because we did have some coaches. The coach that's there now, Coach Krimmel, at St. Francis now, he was one of my assistant coaches at the time. And Coach Krimmel is stand-up guy, love him to death. You know, we talk to this day, even if it's just a text message or a social media DM. It's like, hey man, just checking on you, see how you doing. Just text you, say I love you. Because when we was there, you know, I think that he cared about us. Like I felt like you felt like he cared about you, you know. But I say this, through JUCO, through playing Division I, it was the ultimate preparation to be a professional athlete. Like it really taught me how to be a professional athlete. Like I can say this wholeheartedly, that when I decided to become a pro, I was well above my years of not feeling like a rookie, because I was prepared the business side of basketball that kids nowadays that you are interviewing have been exposed to at 15, 16 years old, at 14 years old, playing on the circuit, playing for these big-time AU programs. Riverside and Gauchos never made us feel like a business. They made us feel like family. So when I got to the college level, I started to feel it and see it. And when I decided to become a pro, it was so easy to adapt and adjust, just because of the fact that I had experienced the business side from Division I, from you seeing that this guy just wants to win games. Right. He doesn't care how much, if you can help him win, cool. If you can't, it don't matter. You know what I mean? Like, it's a business. You owe LeShawn, you producing, you my guy. You know, you have a bad game, Joker will walk right by you like you don't even exist while you getting McDonald's. You know what I mean? And when I became a pro, like I said, it was the ultimate life lesson for me personally, to just I walked into being a rookie professionally in another country, and it was almost, I felt like I was home. You know, just because of the nature of how the basketball business is. Now, granted, the kids that you interview that are 13, 14, 15, 16, well, they're not when you interview them, but those kids, they've been exposed to that. What I was exposed to, they were exposed to it at a way earlier age. They were exposed to it, dude, at a place where it felt like a business at 15. It felt like a business at Peach Jam. It felt like a business at a EYBL event. It was literally a business. And so I got to Division I, I didn't know what that was like but when I left, I knew what it was like. I knew, okay, you're going to a new country. You one of two Americans on the team. You got to produce. You know, you playing in this country is 3 Americans on the team, but only 2 can play at a time. You got to produce. You know, you playing in this country. You're the only American on the team. You getting paid top dollar. You got to produce. Like it was that type of time. You know, where it was like, okay, you know, even when I came back here, ABA, CBA, you know, it was like, you got to produce. You know, like, dude, it was real. Like, I remember one time playing in the CBA. I played for the Albany Patrons. And I played for the Gary Steelheads, right? In Gary, Indiana. Let me tell you this. I remember being in the house, and I was leaving the house that morning to go to practice. And when I came back, there was a new person living in our house because they just cut the last person. Like, yeah.
They just up and moved them in.
Just moved the new guy in.
Wow.
I remember being overseas, and you come back home, and there's a new guy on the team, and they done gave the other guy the plane ticket to go home, and a new guy's flying in on the same day. So it's like, damn, like, we ain't gonna have a roommate. I'm looking at you like, we ain't gonna have a roommate for like 2 weeks at least. It's gonna take a minute to find a player. And then that night, tap, 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 you got a new dude, new American coming through the door. Like, wow. And it was like, for me, it was like, shit. After a while, I had guys that was like, yo, this don't faze you, or friends say, yo, that don't faze you. And it's like, no, if I do my job, I do what I'm supposed to do, I make my shots, I do what I got to do, and I help this team win, I keep my check. So that was the same shit that we had to do in college. If I wanted to stay on the floor, I had to do what I had to do. And for me, it was like some guys seemed like they were a bit, you know, uncomfortable with that, some Americans. But for me, it was also, honestly speaking, it goes back to what we talked about earlier, where I was from. I'm from Patterson Projects. I'm from the South Bronx. I'm from a place where if you don't fight for yours, if you don't fight for what you want, you're not gonna get shit.
Taken away, yeah.
It's gonna get taken away. So for me, it was like I never took anything for granted. You know, I didn't go in the front door. I went in the back door. Everywhere I went in the back door. You know, I went to St. Raymond's to go through the front door, but I ended up going to Laurinburg through the back door to get where I wanted. I had Division I offers and opportunities, but I had to take a year off to be with my daughter. So I had to go through the back door to get back everything I wanted. I had to go kill in JUCO to get to the front door to go Division I. I didn't go to a big school. I went to a small school. So I had to work to get a pro contract. So I had been so comfortable with going through the back door for so long. And because I was built for the back door and I was built through what I went through and it was exposed to growing up, for me, it was just another day. Like, I just like, this is what we do. You grind, you fight, you know, and yes, a lot, like I said, again, some of my friends, you know, I call them Jim Jack and Ralph Jackson and Gio Martinez and, you know, C. Nick and some of the guys that I grew up with that was real friends. You know, I got Andre Calavello. I got so many good friends, but it's like, you know, I had to fight them every day to get what I wanted in life. And even though they didn't play at the level of basketball I did, they came at me every day just because of it, because they felt like they had something to prove. So for me, I'm fighting everybody. And so I was built for that. You know, in my mind, I was just built for that shit. Like I played against K-Sat. I played against Dre Barrett and Majestic. Like our whole lives, like, you know, Carl Krauser. I was talking to Carl a few weeks ago. Like, we hooped in open gyms and against each other in tournaments and games. So going in another country and battling some dude that I can't pronounce his name or he don't know who the fuck I am, that didn't scare me. You know, it was just basketball, you know. And I think that it wasn't like now. Everything is on the internet. There's a top 100 list for everything. There's a top 100 European list. There's a top 100, you know, like it was a different era, you know. So where your game was, you know, me and Carl Krauser was talking a couple of months ago. It's like your name was your game. Your game was your name, rather. You know, it didn't matter who you was because nobody knew the fuck we was three states away. So the only way they knew was that we had to kill them. You know, we had to go out there to Maryland or Virginia. We had to gain our respect. So for me, that's how it was when I became a professional. Honestly, Dave, it was like, you know, I was prepared for this. Like every step, every door that I've went through prepared me for this. And that's why I was able to last. I knew how to take care of my body. I understood what it was like living in other countries. I understood the culture. I understood the food. I had pretty good agents that was respectful and didn't bullshit me. You know what I mean? And they kept it real. This is how much you gonna make, or this is how much you could. You know, do you like this country? Where do you want to play? And you know, this is what a guy with your experience is making. So for me, it was like I understood the business at that point. I understood that everything was either take what you can get and make the best out of it, kill everybody in front of you, and outwork everybody. You know, the New York mentality, pretty much. Because it don't matter where you're from in New York. You know, and we all say it, not to just keep going on, but we all say it. They say if you could make it in New York, you can make it anywhere.
That's a fact.
And that shit is for real, because you could really go anywhere and just make it. Because we hustle. We grind, we hustle, and we fight for what we want.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
I was going to say, all right, shout outs to Tiana, because she changed your life for the better.
Yes, she did.
And also, as far as the Fordham thing, when I interviewed A Butter, because he was one of my guests also, he said that basically some things really went bad with him and Bob Hill, because there was I guess there was a conversation that was had between the both of them in which Bob Hill basically talked down them and was like, basically, I don't care what happens with you, I'm still gonna have my car, I'm still gonna have my house.
I believe it. I believe it. You know what's crazy? When I found out that Smush was going to the draft and I found out that A Butter was leaving, I never reached out to A and said, because I knew where A was from. I could have went across the bridge. I could have picked up the phone. You know, we knew the same people. I never reached out to A and said, yo, A, what you think? Because I knew him well enough. Now, I don't know him like everybody else does or Harlem does and things like that. But I knew A well enough to know if A was leaving, something didn't go right.
Right.
And it wasn't that much of a gap between A walking me around on campus to A wanting to bounce. And honestly, when I picked the school, I was picking the school more because, one, I got a chance to come home and I could play in front of my family. The degree was amazing. As much as I said, yeah, we were talking earlier before we got on camera where I was like LIU, you know, St. Francis, New York, those schools I wouldn't even looked at. But I looked at that Fordham degree was major, and that's what I was looking at. I looked at playing in the A-10, but I really looked at playing with two guys that I thought were really good scorers. And I knew that if I could play with those two guys and I could be the medium between those two guys as far as getting them the ball and creating easier shots for them. Because let's call a spade a spade. A Butter's one of the best scorers to not be in the NBA ever. Smush was a solid scorer. My job is to get them the ball. They don't really need somebody to get them the ball, but if I can make their job easier, then I'm gonna do that. And that's how my mindset. And plus, I had a pretty good relationship with A Butter off the strength of Jermaine Pringle, who played at St. John's, and we were childhood friends. You know, me and Pringle, like we played in IS 183 together and played a lot of places together. So I met him through Maine. You know, I met him through Pringle and shit. And for me, it was like, you know, Dave, to be honest, for me, it was like I kind of wanted to play with A. Not because of the status, not because of none of the other shit. Like, every time I stepped on the court with him, it was fun. It was, he going, I could shoot. He's going to draw doubles. I just got to knock down shots. Right. If I get in this motherfucking lane, boom, he going to make shots. And it was like, I had a relationship. We were cool. Right. So when we did my visit, he kept it real with me. He just said, yo, it's a nice place. It's campus. You know, it's New York. You know, we home, but you just got to do what you got to do. And, you know, and at that point, I was only caring about the basketball stuff. I'm not even going to lie, because academically, I knew I was solid. I really wasn't worrying about the academic part. I knew I was going to do what I needed to do in the classroom. So my questions was always that stuff. You know, the open gyms that I went through, I was dominating the other guards. So I wasn't worried about playing time and none of that. And Bob Hill, pretty much the way he spoke to me was pretty much, you're going to come in and play. You know these guys, it's experience. You know, you had a really good JUCO year. He kept it real. It was like, yo, you average 27 a game in JUCO, but you're not going to be able – you're probably not going to do that here with these guys. And I accepted that because, yeah, I scored 27 a game at JUCO, but it was – I had to.
Yeah, that was a completely different level.
Yeah, that was a completely different situation. It was like, okay, here, like, dude, I played with special players before. I played with Majestic Map. I played with Kenny Satt. I played with guys that could really score the ball. So for me, it was like, all right, cool, I could do this. And I'm home. It's a good degree. And eventually these guys go into the league anyway, and then I'll be able to do what I want to do. And, you know, when I heard, you know, Smush going to draft wasn't a surprise. Adrian, you know, you just heard the rumbling he wasn't going back or he was going to put his name in the draft. I just never reached out to him because I just felt like, you know what, at this point, you know, whatever Butter doing, he doing was best for him. Right. You know, and I did read places that him and you know, Bob Hill wasn't getting along. I didn't know Bob Hill well enough to take A Butter side, and I didn't know.
You just figured it out.
I didn't know. I didn't know either. Yeah, like, and A Butter is the type of person where what's good for you might not be good for him, and vice versa. So I don't. So I don't see in hindsight, I don't see Butter saying don't go there because I don't fuck with him, because our situations could have been different, and I don't see. I think if anything, maybe Bob Hill says to me, "Oh, don't listen to him," and it's like, how am I not going to listen to him when I got a better relationship with him than you?
Right.
I don't know you. I just know you because you want me to come play for you.
Exactly.
So, like shit, I went on overnight trips with this dude. Like I done been in the same hotel room. We done hung out. Like, I wasn't hanging out with him in Harlem, but when we got to the shows or we got to, Bronx Regional, I went to his games, like, I know this dude. Like, so I was like, at that point, honestly, it was just like, I just gonna reevaluate the whole situation.
Mm-hmm. And then the part where, like, he also said to me that nobody told him, like, that period when guys are going back to the NBA, they're going to the NBA draft, or they work out and they feel like, okay, I'm not ready to go to the
they want to go back to school.
So that part, he also said that nobody ever told him about that. Like, he just kept his name in the draft. And then he tried to go back to a Division I school, and then because he left his name in the draft, he lost the rest of his eligibility.
Yeah. And the thing that sucks about that is Bob Hill knows that he was an NBA coach for a very, very, very long time.
Right.
Well, he knew the rules and the regulations to help, and honestly speaking, that played a major part, because that was something that I also heard, around the city, was that he did Butter wrong, and
right.
I didn't reach out. I just said, well, I got another year at JUCO. Let me just try the camps and just go back to school.
Right.
Had Butter stayed, I probably would have still went. Even if, maybe and maybe in theory I probably could have made it better, because Butter would have been playing with me, not him, they say players play, coaches coach.
Mm-hmm.
So, but who knows? Who knows how it would have played out. I just knew that once he lost those two and the rumblings came out that he wasn't doing right by the guys and he was on the hot seat, I just didn't want to chance it.
The writing was on the wall.
And it was. I mean, 6-7 months later, they got rid of him. Which was it was a downfall for New York, because a year later, Mike Jarvis got fired. And that was when the city took a serious hit. But shout outs to A, man. He was, and another reason why, he was kind of like that C. Nick for me at times. That older dude who was older, he'll bust your ass and then tell you, like, give you advice. You play with him sometimes, and he'll, you play with him on his team, and he'll give you, he'll give you advice, and so I didn't feel like at any given time that he never said to me, and I've seen this happen. I went on visits, Division I visits, where guys like, you don't want to come here, and now you got to decipher him telling you don't want to come here because he don't want you to take his spot, or you don't want to come here because it's bad here and we just stuck here. He never gave me that vibe. He took me around the school. He told me it was a good campus. He told me, we talked. I remember, it was in the fall. We sat down and, we sat down on a bench and we kicked it. We stopped walking around campus and just talked. And he explained to me, how practice was. I watched them practice. I watched film sessions. Everything. So I seen him really taking it serious and was engaged and playing well. So as I watched that picture being painted, I was like, okay, I really could come in here and be special. I really could play with some really good guys that's older, got more experience. I had heard the legend of Smush, but I never played with him at the time, only Butter. So when everything just went downhill, it was kind of like, no pun intended, Bob Hill, but when it went downhill, it was kind of like, all right, this definitely a ship it looks like it's sinking, and I don't want to jump on it.
Yeah. But yeah, you got you had the mystery fields of St. Francis PA.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, you said
So it's pretty much
said you was
another
a man.
Laurinburg in other ways.
Yes, it was. You in the mountains is quiet. You in the Amish country. Like you literally, yeah, like, dude, you don't know how many times I went to Walmart before practice and we was on our way back up to campus and you got a horse and buggy literally on the road and you can't go. The rule is you can't go around them. So you really behind them until they get home. Wow. And you don't know how many times, like I literally like ran in the locker room and tried to get dressed just because trying to save myself from having to run because we were late. You know, it's Amish country. It's quiet. I mean, campus is nice.
Yeah, I've seen.
The Gall Arena is beautiful.
So ain't no service over there, but that's another story.
Yeah, ain't no service over there. You know, I can't even. I think I had Sprint at the time.
Yeah.
But it was another Laurinburg, which is crazy because I'm in Wilkes Barre now. Penn State Wilkes Barre is another St. Francis. It's just not that bad. It's not that deep in the mountains. But it was a good experience. Also, too, I was comfortable at that point in my life being away from home. You know, from being at Laurinburg to being, Luzerne County Community College, and then being at, and then now being at, St. Francis. I was cool being away from home. You know, I joke with me and my son talk all the time. My oldest son, and we talk about, playing overseas and stuff. And I said, dude, I was exposed so much to being away from home that after a while, home just it didn't bother me. You know, the hardest part of being away from home was being away from the kids, throughout my career and my wife, everything else. I mean, and they visit stuff like that, but it was more or less like just being away from home didn't bother me. Like it was more like a soldier's mentality. Like it was a mission. I was getting paid to do something I loved to do. And I just wanted to hoop. I didn't want a regular job. I wanted to hoop. I was getting paid money. So I'm a hoop as long as I can hoop, and that's pretty much how it is, and I had the best basketball wife in the world. I had somebody that understood, I wasn't going to be home but she never worried about, she knew other than my kids, man, and God and, family, basketball is it. Like that's my girlfriend, when you young, and it got me out the hood. Look where I've been. I was 15, 16 in Laurinburg. You know what I mean? Because of basketball. I don't play basketball. Shit, I'm at Martin Luther King High School, Morris, Dodge, Walton, one of those schools. Yeah. So it served its purpose, But yeah, being up there, it's different. But definitely shout outs to, to Bob Hill. I mean, he made me go, he put the fuel in my back to go back to school for sure. Other than the guy, Bingo and Kenny P and Thurman would say, when you going back to school? When you going back to school? Like they really did it. Like he really went, like he seen me at that showcase and was like, hey, I want to get you up for a visit because we want to offer you, right then and there. I knew it. Like, okay, I'm back. So that was pretty much it.
Yeah, man. So shout outs to the graduating class of 2006.
Yes, sir.
All right. So of all the countries that you played ball in, which was the country you loved the most?
Japan, definitely. It was the closest thing to New York City. Tokyo downtown Tokyo looks like New York City. When I say it looks like off 42nd Street, where you got the big Samsung screen and the tall building that holds the Samsung screen on 42nd Street in Times Square, that they have the same thing in downtown Tokyo. Same thing. The speed, going from where we stayed at the Lee Meridian Grand Hotel to getting on a train was probably a closer walk than Patterson to the 6th train. It was a quick 4-minute walk. I could take the train downtown. You could drive downtown. The basketball games was exciting. They want to get up and down. They love shooting threes, which was something that, here kind of exhibited, and the game has pioneered into that now. But that was something that they love to do. It was the culture, other than the eating part, because they eat smaller portions of food, which was something that drove me wild, man, because, I like to eat, and I like 12, 13-ounce steaks, and they come in here with this little 4-ounce steak, and you got to order 2 of them joints to get full.
That's a good place to lose weight at.
Yeah. Yeah, the little small portion. They eat small portions. Crazy. Everybody at the time, everybody under 40 speaks English, and everybody probably like 40 or higher doesn't, because they didn't teach it in school. So it wasn't really much of a language barrier for the most part. Everybody spoke it. The food was probably the biggest adjustment. Obviously, money changes, currency, that's just a given. But technology, at the time, we didn't have flat screen TVs here. I had never seen a TV on the wall. Like, we had TVs on, like, our TVs was on the wall. It was flat screens. I seen things that looked like the Wii before the Wii came out. Like they were playing video games where they were swinging their hands and stuff. And then, like, 2 or 3 years later, Nintendo came out with a Wii, and it was like, holy shit, you know what I mean? Touchscreen phones, like, it's crazy to say, but Asia is so ahead of us technology-wise. Like, I would come home and say things to my family, and they would just look at me like, you crazy, like, that's not really happening. I'm like, dude, it's happening. Like, look at this cell phone compared to the phone. I'm coming back with a flip phone, and I'm touching the screen on the phone that works over there. So it was like, the culture was just, it was nice. It was dope. I think 2 of the years I was there, Starberries had came out. So I was calling home, sending money home, like maybe like once a month, getting Starberries, like 7, 8 pairs, because after games, kids were asking for them. It was like they were out there, but you didn't see them much. And the colors that they were having down at like Stephen Barry's was crazy. They had blue, they had gray, they had red, white, and blue. So all these colors that we were getting was, colors that they hadn't seen, and they were charging way more than the $15 we were paying for it in the States. And I was just buying them, and I would play a couple of games and give them away and play a couple of games. So it was like, man, dudes could see you with a sweatsuit on in a store and want to buy it off you. It could just be it could be a Riverside book bag. It was like anything that just signified New York or American basketball. It was out of all the places, it's a place that, for my son's 15, for his 18th birthday, I want to take him to Japan. I want to take him, and hopefully, God willing, everything's back to normal, and we got some, we figure out this virus. But it was a place where, like, if it was home for a few years, and it was a time in my life where I really enjoyed basketball. Not saying I didn't enjoy it anywhere else, but it was cool, man. Like, Tokyo is so New York. I felt like I was home. It felt like I felt like I was home. Like, from the way, the club scene. I mean, obviously not. And it wasn't just Japanese people. I mean, you had people from London, you had people from the UK, you had people from Africa. Like, Marshall Falk was one of my neighbors for like 6 months. Him and his wife was doing fashion at the time, the football player. I think he's a running back. And he was like one of our roommates, like not roommates, but like one of our neighbors. Like, he lived in the same hotel that we lived in, but it was, Tokyo was just, dude, if things get better, you got to go to Tokyo. Like, it's beautiful. I mean, the women, the lifestyle, the speed, the fashion, everything just really reminds you of home. It reminded me of New York. You know, you get on a train and get downtown 10, 15 minutes. You home. Boom, you downtown. You know, you can go shopping. The club starts at 9, 10 o'clock. You in there Jones at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. You know what I mean? And then you can leave there and catch another club some nights. You know, it was fun. You know, it was never a dull day. Do we practice at 4 o'clock in the afternoon from the morning till 4? I ain't have shit to do. By 6:30, 7 o'clock, I was back doing whatever I wanted to do. You know, it was tough. You know, it's always tough when you're living in a different country because it's like the timing. You know, had to watch the playoff games in the morning. You know, NBA. I'm a Laker fan, so you watching them at 10:30 in the morning. You know, because the game is on at 10:30 at night here, so it's a 12-hour difference. But it was I'm telling you, Japan, if you ever get a chance, it's a little expensive, but if you ever get a chance, Tokyo is definitely the place to go, man. There's so many things to do. I'll tell you so many places to go to. Now I haven't been there in a long time, but it was my favorite place. Definitely. I knew that question was going on. People ask me that question all the time. That's why before you could finish it, like Japan. Definitely Japan.
Yeah. So that's the playing portion of the story. Now let's get into the coaching.
Sure.
So when did you decide to start coaching?
The first tsunami that happened in Japan kind of really changed everything. A lot of places started to get, you know, a lot of facilities were damaged. A lot of things was going on. It was a bit scary time. And at the time, I'm not even going to lie to you, was very uneducated on tsunamis. Obviously, you know the basics, but to know if it could happen again, how often does it happen? You know, I just didn't know if I wanted to go back at the time. And honestly, I started loving being at home. Not saying being at home is wrong, but, you know, picking the kids up from school, taking them to school. At this time now, I got 3 kids now. So it's like, okay, you know, I got a newborn and I got a young son. I got a baby son, a young son, and I got a daughter that was growing up. So it's like at that time, it's like, you know, I'm enjoying fatherhood and picking kids up and doing all the other stuff. And I wound up doing some coaching clinics. I wound up going to do some camps first. I do some camps. And that's where it started to kind of like speed in a little bit because now we're going over small stuff like how do you guard a ball screen? You know, how they switching this? What are they doing? We start talking about how the Europeans is doing things, how the Americans is doing things overseas. And, you know, we just, you know, conversing, just coaches talking. And I started to go, some of my guys like, hey, I want you to come in. You know, some of the guys I'm meeting at these camps, like, hey, I want you to come in and do a skill development day with our guys. You know, let me see some of the things that y'all are doing or whatever. So I started doing small stuff like that. And about a year or so later, I go watch my junior college play. I go down to Wilkes Barre. I'll go watch Luzerne play, and they get hammered real bad. And I'm pissed because it's like alumni nights. I'm pissed. I'm pissed. They retired my jersey, and I'm on my way home with my family. So I got my mom in the car, my wife, my brother, his girlfriend at the time, and I think so. It's just us 4, you know, us 5 riding back, and I'm like, man, they're terrible. And I was like, man, I didn't stay till the end. I'm like, this.
Yeah, you just wanted to get up out of there so bad.
Yeah, I just got out of there. I was like, this shit is bad. Like, my coach wasn't there anymore, but I'm just saying to myself, like, hey, like, how the fuck how did we get this bad? Like, we went from winning region championships and getting the national tournaments, sending guys Division I, and now, you know, this is how it looks. So I said, so jokingly, I said to my brother, I don't know if I was joking or probably just angry. I said, man, I think I can do a better job than that, you know, than that coach. And my brother's like, so why don't you get into coaching? I'm like, nah, that's not me. I don't have the patience for it. But it really was my competitive discipline. Like I'm a very competitive person. So I didn't want to coach because I felt like if I feel like this, and some people don't understand, like everybody says, oh, well, Michael Jordan should coach. And it's like, no, he's never going to coach. And this is my feeling for a lot of guys. I didn't want to coach because I felt like I'm one of those move out the way, let me just do this shit myself type of guys. Mm-hmm. And I didn't think that I could ever be that guy to kind of navigate with teaching kids how to do it the way I want them to do it for me. So I was like, no, I don't want to get into coaching. Mm-hmm. And couple of weeks later, I started to get the bug. Like, you know what, man, what would I do if I took over that program? Me and my brother go to lunch, and I'm like, man, I think I can turn the program around. So I reach out to the athletic director, say, hey, I don't know if I'm not trying to get the man fired, but if y'all looking to make a decision, if y'all looking for a new coach, I'm interested. Just keep me in the back of your mind. I'm willing to move to Northeast PA and take over the program. So I leave it alone for like a year, and I do some more camps. I do some camps in like April and May. So some Division II coaches of mine, friends and buddies of mine, I've known for over the years. Even some of them recruited me, some of them I knew as mentors or guys that, I just knew. And one of my guys is at Virginia Union. He tells me, yo, he wasn't at Virginia Union at the time. He's at West Virginia State. He says to me, Cecil is open. And I'm like, Cecil, the JUCO from that was good, back in the early 2000s? And he's like, yeah, man, you should go for that job. And I'm like, nah, you crazy. I was like, I'm not. Like, I'm cool with helping, giving out some advice, teaching kids how to play the game. No. And I talked to Kenny P. I wonder if he remembers that conversation. Mm-hmm. I called Kenny P out the blue. Mm-hmm. Bingo at that time was running, I think he was running Gauchos. Yeah, Bingo was running Gauchos. So at that time, he was big time. I came back and Bingo is the man. Like he running Dykeman, he running this, he got Bingo's big. So I'm like, yo, I get in touch with Kenny P. Kenny P's at Lincoln at the time. And I said to Kenny P, I said, hey man, I'm thinking about getting into coaching. What you think? And he was excited. He was more excited than I was. And Kenny P was like, yeah, man, you got to do it. You got to give back to the kids. The kids, they need this, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, maybe I should. So a few weeks later, the Cecil job's still open. I let it fly because I'm like, I don't think I'm ready to, I don't think I'm ready to take that type of job. And, Cecil was good, and I know the expectations is probably high, whatever. The phone rings. It's a Division II coach I met from Kansas that I met through Fred Burrows, the guy, one of my guys, he's the associate head coach at Virginia Union. He said, yeah, man, Cecil open. They looking for a coach. And I gave him your information. And I'm like, what? I only know this dude I only met this dude like 2 or 3 times. Mm. I wound up doing a phone interview with the athletic director at Cecil. I drive down to Cecil on a Wednesday. I get the job on a Friday. And he offered me the job on a Friday, and I took it. Mind you, it's late June. It's like June 17th, 18th. So I'm like 4 months behind the JUCO curveball. Mm-hmm. And I got 13 scholarships. I got 2 returning players and 13 scholarships. And I didn't even have time, Dave, to hire a staff. I had to literally get off the ground and just find players. And that's how my pops started coaching with me. My pops had just retired from working for the city. He had worked 45 years, and he had retired that April. And him and my mom was going to move south, and he was running around recruiting with me. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the summer, we put a solid recruiting class together. And I told him, I said, why don't you come recruit, coach with me for this year? I got a house, I got a place to stay. We're just going to chill. Let's just coach with me. And he did. And we had this storybook season my first year. We beat the #1 team in the country. They were 28-0. We beat them in the region championship game. We had to win 4 games in a row to get to them. Had a really pretty decent season at first. I think 18 and 12 or some shit like that. 19 and 12 or something like that. And we get to the national tournament, and we make it to the Final Four. It was probably 40 seconds, I think, from getting to the next round. And we lose. It was devastating. But we got 4 or 5 guys going to go Division I. And I asked my dad, like, yo, you know, we go out to dinner. I said, what you going to do, man? Like, so you're going to go home? Now you're going to go down south? Because my parents are from the south. And he said, no, I'm coming back. We're going to win the national championship. And then for 2 more seasons, we chased winning the national championship at Cecil. And at that, I mean, we left there with 18 guys go to 4-year schools.
Wow.
11 go Division I, 5 go Division II, and 2 go NAIA. And we just had success. 10 of those guys are pros. And we ended up having success. You know, I won 2 region coach of the years. We went to 2 national tournaments in 3 years. We won damn near, I think, 55 games. We end up going, I end up getting a call at, I end up finding out from a former player, my former friend of mine, that the athletic director, who was at the time the coach at Wilkes Barre, is taking an athletic director job. And he called, and I called him flat out just to congratulate him on a good season because I had played for him. He was one of my assistant coaches in junior college. So I reached out to him and said, hey, man, you know, I heard you retiring from coaching and, you know, it was a, you know, job well done. Like you changed some lives. You changed a lot of lives. You know, you had an impact on my life. And I said, what you going to do next? And at the time I didn't know he was going to be athletic director. I just heard he was retiring. And he said, oh, I'm going to be the athletic director. They gave me an athletic director job. I said, really? I said, oh, man, that's good. I said, well, shit. He said, yeah, now I got to find a coach. I said, yeah, that's going to be hard. You know, it's going to be hard for you to find a guy to replace you. He was legendary there. But he just couldn't, you know, he just didn't win a big one. He had some success. And about 2 days later, he calls me back and offers me the job. Hey, I want you to come work for me. Why don't you come, you know, come run the program at Penn State Wilkes Barre. And my first thought was no, hell no. I don't want to live in Pennsylvania again because I had already lived there twice. I went to Luzerne, I went to St. Francis, like, no. And I talked to my wife, who I could tell my wife I'm going to coach in Afghanistan. My wife's going to be like,
when we go, what time? What we got to do?
Yeah. She's like, well, if it makes sense to you, it makes sense to me, and I'll get the house together. That's pretty much my wife. And I'm like, well, it was 2 hours. I mean, 2 hours closer to home than 4. 2.5 hours closer to home than 4. You know, we still had our house in New York. You know, my mom was here, so it was closer for my father. My mother and father together, but during the season, my pops was with me. So my father can be home closer. My mother a little bit more. Plus, he can go to church. My father loved, you know, he goes to church. He's a big part of his church. So I'm like, you know what? I'll take the job as long as I can run the program the way I want to, and I can build a program to be as successful as I dream it will be. He said, deal. I'm not going to interfere. You tell me what you need and what you want to do. I'll let you run the program. And for the last 5 years, that's why we've had success. I got there, Dave, and when I told everybody that I was going to win a national championship in my press conference, they thought I was fucking crazy. I had people tell me, my boss, he denies this every time we joke about it, but it's the truth. And I'm pretty sure he's going to watch this 100%. My boss told me it was going to take me 5 years to get to a national tournament and maybe 7 years before we can get to that level that he expected. And I looked at him and I said, I'll be to the nationals by the 3rd year. I said, I'll be there by next year, my 2nd year. I said, I just need a year to learn the league, find out what players and talent, learn the school, and we'll be a championship team right away. And he thought I was fucking nuts. He was like, dude, there's no way you're going to pull this off. And I said, watch me. And he said, I'm not doubting you. I said, listen, I got this generation figured out. And what I basically did, Dave, was I had just came from coaching for 3 years, guys that had aspirations to be Division I players. And I watched what it took and how hard we had to work and how hard they had to work to be Division I players. So what I did was I figured out, other than getting a degree, because I don't want people to watch this and think, oh, I don't care about kids getting degrees. I got 2 degrees, so I'm all for that.
Mm-hmm.
But I said, we're going to be the first program to send guys that are not Division I overseas. We're going to produce pros. And we started, my first year, we didn't have any pros. My first year, we were building this team off the ground.
Mm-hmm.
My second year, we get a shitload of transfers. I bring in 3 Division II transfers, 2 NAIA transfers, and we get a Division I walk-on transfer.
Mm-hmm.
And we start to get really, really good. I only have 2 seniors on the roster, and both my seniors go pro.
I'm here. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. Both my seniors go pro. Chris Canteen ends up signing with an agency and goes to Brazil. And Cone Lewis signs with an agency and he goes to Spain. And because of both of those 2 guys' success and social media and all the other stuff, our program blows up.
Mm-hmm.
Because now everybody's wondering, how's this little ass school on the mountain producing pros?
Wow.
And our next recruiting class becomes the recruiting class that makes us champions. We bring in Jordan Williams, who's now playing professionally. Amir Biddle's playing professionally. Kevin Silverberg, who I'm in the process now helping him find an agent. He's definitely a pro. And we bring in those 3 guys. We bring in some other guys around them that are junior college All-Americans, transfers. Kevin Silverberg, by the way, is a New York kid. He played at Collegiate. He didn't win a Catholic school championship, but he went to 2 championship games. Played at Collegiate, was a 1,000-point scorer. He originally was at Dominican and transfers into us from Dominican. And Silverberg has a successful career. Long story short, that recruiting class gets to the national tournament, but we lose in the second round. We lose in the Elite 8. And everybody returns. We add Khalil White, Jaden Hampton, and a few other guys that had stellar careers transferring in. And that team wins a national championship in 2019. And when that team leaves, 3 of those guys go pro. And then it opens the floodgates for more guys to come. So we've been there. This is year 6, and we're at 6 pros already. And Shakur Jackson graduated. He was a pro. He played in Spain. So 6 years. Well, this is year 6, so we're gonna say 5 years because we don't know pandemic, whatever. But 5 years, 6 pros. We won 92 games and 47 losses. We are at, for my career, I'm at 147 wins. I'm closing in on 150 if we can have a season. And we did it in 8, we're doing it in 9 years. I was national coach of the year a year ago. We won the national championship a year ago. We've produced pros, and I have graduated 99% of my players. I have 1 player that will graduate next May, and he will put us at 100. Wow. Every player that has came through my program has graduated. Every player that's played.
Graduation rate. That's big right there.
We're close to 100% graduation rate. I got 1 guy that has to graduate, and 1 guy I'm hoping goes back to school and graduates. But he wound up transferring out. He played, but he's transferring his credits back to his old school because the requirements to graduate are less than ours. So he's closer to getting his degree with them than he is with us. Wow. So unfortunately, he won't get his degree with us, but I'm still on his ass to get his degree. But we made it players first. I made the program about the kids. I know that every kid wants to be a pro. That's not realistic. But a lot of these guys have separated themselves in some shape, form, or fashion to become potentially a pro. I've used my contacts in the business from my playing days as well as just networking, from coaching, to get guys the exposure and the opportunity to be seen by agents and teams to play professionally. I don't play a cupcake schedule. We play the toughest of the toughest. I play Division I's every year. I play those Division I's and Division II teams. I mean, we played Central Connecticut. We played Norfolk. We've went south and played some teams. We actually was gonna play 4 Division I's this year, but the goal is to get them all back next year. Mm-hmm. The plan is to continue to give these kids that extra exposure. Mm-hmm. We've turned the program around since I've been there, not just from a athletic standpoint. I mean, we live stream all of our games. We play Division I teams. We play 2 TV games a year with the local network. Out here we get a lot of media attention as far as like write-ups and stuff on the internet and the media coming out. But we've had some success. We've had, since I've been here, we've had 7 all-conference players, 6 All-Americans. The school before I took over had never been hot. They had never been ranked in the top 3. We've been ranked in the top 3 for the last few years. And last January, we were ranked number 1 in the country for 4.5 weeks.
Wow.
So that was something that had never took place.
That's great right there.
And I get it, USCAA, everybody doesn't look at it the same, but we've beaten Division II teams, NCAA Division II teams. We've beaten, we've played balls out hard against Division I teams and lost in close games. I've probably sent, I tell kids during the recruiting process, especially New York kids, because they see USCAA or see everything and they don't really know. But I've produced more pros in the last 5 years and had more wins in the last 5 years than any Division II or Division III program in the state of New York. I think the only team that comes comparable to us is St. Thomas Aquinas.
D2
is
stacked.
It's stacked. Other than that, no D3 in the country, in the state of New York, no D2 in the state of New York. No D2 in the state of New Jersey, no D3. Can tell you, name them 6 pros, and here's the pros. For me, it's 16 pros in my stadium. You know what I mean? Playing for me is not, I don't want to say it's Kentucky, because that I don't want to give myself that much fucking praise, but it's that type of environment. Like, you're gonna come in here and you're gonna be tested every day. You're gonna play with and against the best fucking players that is at this level. You're gonna come in here and it is individual workouts. It is, hard practices. You're gonna compete. I have coaching staff. My coaching staff, other than Pops, my coaching staff is young guys that are big on skill development, that will get in the gym and still can give guys buckets, that can physically hit guys with a pad. So we go hard as hell with our kids, and we put our kids in a position to be really, really good. I have Division II guys that transfer down from NCAA Division II schools into my program and have had success enough to go pro that wouldn't have. Colton Lewis came from Virginia Union, where he was averaging 9-9 and averaged 18-12 for us, and he's playing professionally, something he wouldn't have got at Virginia Union. Chris Canteen was a 9-point-a-game player at Willie and Jesuit, who he left at the time was number 3 in the country. And he comes in here and averages 23 a game, and he's playing professionally overseas. Like, we've had guys. Jordan Williams was a JUCO kid that wasn't a JUCO All-American. He averaged 9-9. He averaged 9-5 at a Division I JUCO in Michigan, and transfers into us. And he's a double player, and he was national most outstanding player. We've produced guys. We've produced pros. We've produced top-notch players, and we've done that because we know talent. We evaluate hard, and we bring kids in that just want to be dogs. You gotta really come through that door knowing that you're gonna be pushed harder than you ever pushed. And if you're not capable of that, this ain't the school for you. You know, our goal every year is to be better than the Division II, to beat the best teams in the country. You know what I mean? We don't win damn near, you know, you don't win 90-something games in 5 years without having the best players, you know, in the country, you know, and we don't look for guys that average 25, 26 a game. I mean, the last 4 years, we've had 4 or 5 guys averaging double figures and 3 or 4 guys right up underneath them. That national tournament, that national championship team had five guys averaging double figures and 3 guys not averaging double figures. You know, before I came here, Dave, the school had 1 national tournament appearance. We've been in national tournament 3 years in a row. You know what I mean? So we made the standard here, you know, everything for the players. Everybody eats, you know, I don't worry, you know, I tell the guys don't worry about numbers, just worry about building your resume and win. I know how the agents think. I know how overseas teams think, you know, from being a player and you know, I talk to agents, you know, at least once a week, either text message, direct message, or just, you know, updates on some of my guys. You know, agents know me as a guy that gets small college guys that kind of get overlooked that has pros. You know, and I'm cool with being the small college guy who gets his guys the pros. I mean, I think where we're from, you know, we're both from the same place, but where we're from, kids don't see past Division I because everybody tells them, you know,
that's the place to be.
That's the place to be. And I'm not going to sit here and I'm not going to say it's not, because I did play at that level. And I don't think if you would have came at me with a Division II opportunity, you know, 20 years ago, I wouldn't listen to you. I probably would have got you out of my circle. You know, but the difference is now is you have more footage, you have more, you know, you're talking about 2099, 2000, 2001, I'm making decisions, and the internet is just getting off the ground.
Right.
You know what I mean? You know, it was crazy. I was joking with my son the other night. I said, I lived in an era where you couldn't be on the phone and on the internet at the same time. And he bust out laughing. I said, dude, my parents used to get mad and say, I've been calling the house and the line is busy because everybody had dial-up. I said, there wasn't no Wi-Fi. Like,
that's true.
That's something that, you know, you're benefiting. I was joking with him the other night, but it's the truth. Like, you got YouTube and Instagram and so many platforms that where you can see that it's other good opportunities. I think we live in an era now where everything's D1 bust, D1 bust, D1 bust. And that's cool. You know what I mean? That's 100% cool. The thing about it is that a lot of these kids are not Division I players. You know, they you know, and no one wants to. If you tell them they're not a Division I player, they're not your friend anymore. They don't want to talk to you. They're not their coach. You know. And so for me, it's like we swing out. We swing and miss on some kids sometimes. I'll coach out. I'm gonna try to go Division I, and after a year, they realize that shit don't happen, or they go to prep school and it don't happen, and then they end up at our level. And they look back and say, wow, I'm better off than where I was supposed to go to begin, you know, where I wanted to go from the beginning. And I mean, we offer exposure. We all, you know, we give out the gear. We're a Nike school. The Penn State degree is top notch. You know, we might be a branch campus, but your degree only says Penn State. You know, we travel top notch. You know, you're gonna play Division II NCAA schools. You're gonna play Division I universities because of my contacts. I can reach out the phone and ask guys. The goal is to continue to keep doing that. You know, you're gonna win championships and get rings. You're gonna get all the things that you would get. We've kind of turned our program into the Division I of the USCAA. You know, we travel nice. You get good gear. You get exposure. You play some TV games. You get all the bells and the whistles. You know, and what we've done is we've built a winning culture here. You know, we've built a culture where if you're a kid that may have a shot to go pro, we're gonna do what we got to do to try to get you there. It's no guarantee, but we're gonna give you the best shot that you're gonna get. something that a Division II coach is not going to do because he's worried about getting wins. He doesn't, and like you said, with A. Butter is keeping his keys to his car in his house. We putting the kids first.
Amen to that. Also, rest in peace to the late, great Leroy Pops Hammett.
Yes, sir, man. My OG, man. Definitely. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
He was with us. We got him his national championship.
I was just watching the video just now of the day that he got his ring, man.
Yeah, man. It was when I tell you that was probably the dopest moment ever, I've bought my father so many gifts for Christmas and birthdays, but to see my father, with his national championship ring, and think where we came from 8 years ago when I wanted, I asked him, well, what you going to do next? And he's like, well, I'm going to win. I want to win me a national championship was probably the dopest experience ever. And to actually get it was amazing. Because, let's face it. You've seen a lot of basketball, and so have I. I don't know, other than playing against Talik Brown growing up, I don't know another guy who has a national championship. I played against him. We were kids, obviously, but he won one at UConn, with BG and those guys. And I could actually say I know one guy. Some kids, they know Russ and Sosa and them, whatever. But I don't know anybody. I don't know any guys. And even though it's not Division I, to get that close and to get to the end, that's what it is. And my ring is actually better than the main campuses.
Yeah, feel free to show off the ice, man.
Oh yeah, man, I'll show it off, man.
I love that ring, man. I liked it.
Yeah, man. Hey, Penn State Wilkes Barre is the only team in Penn State history to ever win a national championship in basketball.
Wow.
Ever.
And throughout all the branches.
Throughout all the branches, including the main campus. The main campus has never won a national championship. They won an NIT, but never a national championship.
Yeah, I was there when they won that NIT. I was there.
Not in basketball.
Yeah.
But in volleyball, they've won a bunch of times, and in football, they've won, but not in basketball.
Wow.
And I've actually seen Mike Watkins' ring, who was on that team. And my ring is, I tell him all the time, my ring is better than Mike Watkins' ring. Our ring is better. It's bigger and better.
That's true. But, he won the consolation. You won the real thing. Shout out to Mike Watkins, man.
Yeah.
But so also, matter of fact, before we go on to my next part, you actually coached two of my old Eagle brothers, Dante Adams and Stephen Allen. What were they like when they were playing for you?
They were hot and cold. For two dudes who hang out with each other, brothers and best friends, they have two different personalities. Two total different personalities, man. Dante was a killer. Dante was an All-American twice. He was All-American twice. He is third in Cecil's history in scoring. I joke with him all the time because I say he didn't score more JUCO points than I did. I scored 1325. I think he did like 17 or 18 points less than I did. He blames the game that he got hurt and he wanted to play, and I told him he couldn't play, as he would have caught me. But I was trying to take care of his career. But Dante Adams is probably one of the top 4 best scorers I've ever coached in my career, for sure. Big, strong, aggressive, shot the lights out the ball, very physical.
Yeah, I remember that.
I'm gonna be honest with you, Dave. I don't know how the hell those kids get overlooked. I don't. Now, when I get them, they're in my first and second year of coaching. So when I got that job at Cecil, I really wasn't watching the basketball scene in New York. I was pretty much still a foreigner coming back, getting my feet wet with just being home. So I don't know who was really that great in the city, but there's no way those guys should have ended up at Cecil. They should have been on somebody's D2 roster. They should have been on somebody's Division I roster. They should have been at somebody's prep school. Stedman Allen was a silent assassin. You're talking about a guy who, I say Sean Marion. He hated it, but 6'5", rebounded the ball, probably one of the best motors I've ever fucking seen. Mm-hmm. He played hard all the time. Face-up game was okay. He wasn't a back-to-the-basket guy. Had some guard skills, but wasn't really a fully guard at that time. But he was transitioning into being a wing. But Stedman, at the time I had them, Dante was the complete player. He was big, he was strong, he handled the ball well, he scored the ball. He was a killer. Stedman, you've seen, was on the rise. Like, he was still scratching the surface of how good he could be. And Stedman was 18-10. He averaged 18-10 and was region player of the year for us. And we didn't call many plays for Stedman. I can admit it. I know he probably wouldn't choke me for it, but we didn't call many plays for Stedman. We called plays for Dante. So when I tell you how much of a motor he had, this kid went and get 18-10 off the muscle. And Stedman went on and just do great things. Not saying Tate didn't. Tate did, but Tate was the complete player when we were at Cecil. And you know how they say, okay, you're drafting this guy and this is how good he is right now, but this guy's got so much upside and potential. That was Stedman. He was the dude. He just had so much fucking – like, there were days where he would just do things in practice, and it was like, man, this fucking kid is getting better and better every damn day. Like, Jesus. But Tay was just so consistent. You know, like, you seen Stedman going up the ladder getting better. And Tay, you didn't really worry about the ladder. He was just fucking good. Tay was going to go out and score 20-something points a game. You know, I had Charles Burley on that team who went to Del State. He led the country in assists. So he just knew how to make guys better around him. You know, John McNair turned down some Division I offers and went to Stack. He wound up going to play in Ireland. Like, that team had some really fucking good players. Mm-hmm. And that team goes to the national tournament, 2 years in a row. But Stedman, he was a stud. Those were two studs. Dante was a scoring machine. He could score at all three levels. Didn't want to play no fucking defense, but he did everything else. He did everything so good on offensive end. You had to live with someone. You had to live with Tay's lack of wanting to play D. But I'll tell you this. Those were two fun players to coach. They were two fun players to be around. It was so beautiful in my first year of coaching to have two Bronx kids on my roster. I had another kid named Rasheem King, God rest his soul. He played at Severian. He was from Severian.
Yeah, I remember him.
Yeah, Rasheem was really good. He passed away from cancer. Shortly, like 2 years later after we played, he was going to Alcorn State. But those two guys, man, love those guys. They were really good, really good. I helped Tay, play professionally. Tay is a beast. And I loved coaching both of them. Only got great things to say about both of them, man. I mean, I almost tried. When I got the job at Wilkes Barre, I tried to steal Dante for a year. I was like, "Hey, man, I know you're about to graduate, but come over here and get 40 a game. Come over here." And he's like, "Nah, man, I don't want to leave." But Dante Adams is special. They both were special guys, man. When I tell you, those guys were good. I don't know how the hell someone doesn't scoop those guys. I mean, I signed them late June, almost July. I don't know how the hell from the signing period in November till June, those guys are not
snatched
signed.
up. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I watched them play once and I was like, hey, it wasn't even the fact that I had a lot of scholarships. It was like, hey, man, I want to get this letter of intent to you, mm-hmm. So those, man, two good guys, great Eagle program. I met some great guys through that program. I met Ike. I met Coach Queens. I met a lot of good guys from that program. Jaden Edwards. They call him Spicy now, but Jaden. Mm-hmm. It was a lot of good guys from that area, from that era of Wings talent. of Eagle talent that was really good, and Wings was pretty good at that time too.
Yeah, man.
You know,
good old days.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Funny thing is, Stead and Dante, shouts to them. I was I was part of the last class in the old building when they were in LGJ. They were part of the fourth graduating class, aka the first class in the new building on 176th and 3rd Ave. So they got to experience the nice building, man. We had But yeah, shout outs to Eagle Academy. That's my alma mater. Even though I only go there a couple times a year now, just to see them play. That's my school. That's the brotherhood.
Yeah, for sure.
So let's talk about how you've basically like the pandemic. How hard has it been for you to recruit?
Knock on wood, we've been fortunate enough that we graduated 8 guys. So we finished recruiting last year pretty early. We got some late commits through a couple of showcase events and kids that we was on, and we just pretty much was just waiting for. Shout out to Coach Camille Dillard, the Dominant and Rough. We went to him a year ago, 2 years ago, and we got a player from him. Last year, we got a player from him, and Dorian Haynes, which was a freshman from Boys and Girls. And Dorian had a hell of a fucking year. As a freshman, he started for us at times, and I haven't started a freshman since 2015. So Dorian made that starting lineup. I actually had the National Freshman of the Year twice, and the National Freshman of the Year didn't start for us.
Wow.
So Dorian, shout out to Dorian Haynes. Dorian really, he's a special kid. He's got some serious upside. I think he's got some ways to go, but his ceiling's so high. And so we went back to Dillard again this summer, and we signed Marco Bata from
Forest Hills.
He went to one of those he's on our roster. Goddamn, I can't remember where he went.
No, I can tell you right now.
I know it was
it was Epic High School.
Epic North. I know I got one kid.
Epic South.
North,
okay.
Epic South, and then we got Trayvon Artis. He went to Epic North, if I'm not mistaken. And we have the third guy is Trayvon, Marco, Dorian. So we went back and got those 3 guys. We went back and did it and got 2. I got Kevin Major, which is, I know, pretty much a household name. He went to Gompers. He actually led PSAL in scoring. He's got a chance to be a pro if we can navigate through the fucking pandemic. But so as far as recruiting wise, we were done. Thanks to the fact that we don't have this year of eligibility doesn't count. We keep everybody. But we've still been recruiting. We still got some pieces to fill. We got some guys that came in that's pretty good, but they just not ready yet. I don't know how ready they'll be due to how much one-on-one time and practice time we'll get, because we're hoping to play, but like we talked earlier, you just don't know if that's going to happen. But we got some holes to fill, plug in, because we do have 1 or 2 guys that actually are going to graduate that are not going to come back. They're hoping that they're going to play through the pandemic, but if they don't, they're just going to graduate. So we got some holes to plug. But to answer your question, I'm probably spending 20, 25 hours a week watching film, on the phone talking to coaches, high school coaches, junior college coaches, talking to AAU coaches, mentors. I've watched several showcases so far via live stream, which is really tough because who a kid is on an iPad or a TV screen is not. It's hard to see who he is in person. Yeah. The camera doesn't catch the camera's only on the guy who has the ball. So when the guy doesn't get the ball, how is he responding? Does he have an attitude? Does his face screw up? Is the kid playing when he's tired? You can't see those things. Is he coachable when the coach is saying something? When he talks to you guys, is he arrogant? Is he humble? So there's a lot of things that the live stream doesn't show. But
or the mixtapes for going
or the mixtapes, and I'll watch a highlight tape, but it's for kicks and giggles. I don't take, listen, I still play open gym with our guys every now and again, Dave, and I think I can get about 4 minutes of highlights and make myself look like I still got it at 39 years old. So anybody can make a highlight tape. So for me, I like to see kids up close and personal. The pandemic has kind of handcuffed that, but you're relying on guys like a Camille Dillon, like a Tippy, like a Nate Blue, like a, just guys from our city. You're relying on their expertise of how good a kid is. So when I'm having a conversation with Camille and I'm saying to him, hey, I like this kid, but can he play at my level? He can play at your, but how good is he? Do you think can he, we're going to play 4 Division I's next year. Is he Division I good? Can he compete? I talked to Camille and I talked to a few guys down south. I got guys in Virginia that kind of do the same thing we do up here. And I just said to them, hey, I need a guy that can fucking score the ball 25 a night. He doesn't have to get 25 a night here, but he got to be that type of good, because I got to go play 4 or 5 Division I games next year, because I got some guys that want to be pros, and I'm not trying to get my head beat in. I want to win. I want to compete. So those are questions that you're asking these guys. And when these guys, say a Tippy or any of these guys say, yeah, he really is that good, now I got to find a way to put a mask on, strap up, and I got to go see him. Like I got to find him play live. Now it's unfortunate right now because you either got places that don't want you to have access to them. Like I talked to Jaquan at Hoop Dreams. I talked to him.
My guy Jaquan Bolt, shout outs to him.
Shout out to him. I talked to him a few weeks ago because I was going to come up here and watch some round ball games.
Yeah.
And he said, I don't think you're going to be able to get in because it's
That's
only
true.
media.
Yeah.
And it's those things that we're kind of, as coaches, we're hurling over, because had he said, yo, I think you can get in, I would have got here, or I would have sent the coach. But right now it's you're pretty much, you really have to use your eyes right now. And it's at that place where, I get DM'd on Instagram and Twitter the same way you getting them for interviews and stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm, hey coach, check out my highlight tape. Okay, I need you to send me 2 games. I'm calling
full
other
games, not no highlights. But we want the full games.
I want 2 full games after I see the highlight tape. And then let's say it's a JUCO kid, I'm calling coaches in his league because I need games from him that this kid wants me to see the good games.
Right. I
want to see the game that he didn't play well against you. And I want to see how bad he played. I'm asking coaches, how good do you think this kid is? So I'm doing my due diligence. My coaching staff is doing their due diligence, where it's like, okay, I'm going to watch this game, coach, and I'm going to send it to you, and now you got to watch the games. Tell me what you think. Now I'm calling, let's say it's a kid at BMCC, I'm recruiting, hypothetically speaking. I'm going to call guys at Hostos, and I'm going to call guys at Bronx Community, because I want to know what you think of this kid. Is he a kid that's disrespectful when he hits a 3 in front of your bench? Is he a kid? Does he work hard? Like, what do you think? Would this be a kid you wanted in your program? Like, I'm asking these guys these questions because in this pandemic, you got to get it right. I may not be able to see that kid at BMCC until April or May, when I have to make a decision. Do I go away from guys, or do I for this kid, or do I go with the guys I've seen over and over and over again? I go to some of my players. Hey, there's a kid from New York. What do you think of him? There was a kid a few weeks ago that Trayvon Artis had played with at Epic North, and it's like, do you know this kid? I like what I saw. I think he's pretty good. He plays with a motor. What do you think of him? And he said, he gave me his opinion. So we're just using every avenue. You got to find a way right now to just recruit and be as due diligent as possible. Right now, this is also a time where we're all using I know for me, we're all using we're using our network. We're using the guys. I'm talking to guys from Virginia and Maryland, and I'm talking to guys from Florida, guys that I got relationships with, or guys that I've had their kids. You know, I have JUCO coaches call me like, hey, listen, you know, I got kids that, you know, were supposed to go to this Division II, but shit fell through because of the pandemic. You know, I've had kids call me like, hey, our school's not having a season. I want to transfer into you, even if you don't want to have a season, even if you guys don't have a season, I still want to be there. You know, I get guys see me, you know, tweet on Instagram or Twitter or this place or that place, and they go in my bio and they start to look and it's like, oh man, Purdue's pros, look at their schedule. They play Division I's, and now kids are interested. So we're you know, you turning over every stone. You know, there's no stone unturned. I love it because we already recruited this way. I don't have a Division I budget. I had a good budget, you know, and I get in the car and go, but I don't have a Division I budget where I can fly everywhere and see everybody. So we've been recruiting like this forever, where we're using our contacts and watching film. And I got an 80-inch flat screen TV. I put it on the TV and sit on the couch and I watch guys. You know, I play with my son, I'm watching guys. So, you know, I got my 15-year-old, he be sitting on the couch recruiting, like, you know, so we just hitting the road. But right now, to showcase guys, if you got good kids, I'll come watch. If I have history with you, networking wise, I'm going to network with you. Honestly, I spend about 25 hours recruiting a week, probably more. But a lot of times it's not even me going out recruit. It's coaches trying to place kids with me because we've done so great of a job. You know, my assistant coaches called me and was like, hey, such and such called me today. He gonna call you tomorrow. He got a kid, you know, and he said he got a kid for you. He got a kid for us. So, you know, we've been here 5 years. You know, we've had amazing success. Obviously, we won a national championship. We've won damn near 100 games in 5 years. You know, we've had instant success. You know, we've had some pros. Our program sells itself. You know, now granted, there's some kids that don't know shit about us, and this is where you play a part. And Hoop Dreams plays a part, and other, you know, podcasts or interviews I've done. You guys give us an outlet. Like, it might be a guy. I mean, our interview is long as hell, but there might be a guy, dude, that may not watch the whole thing, but he's going to read whatever caption you use, and he's going to look into me, you know, and it could be me giving you a shout out. It could be anything. And because you retweet something I said, you know, kids are looking. So honestly speaking, we're in that phase right now where you just got to grind. And if you want to win, you got to grind. And if you do what you're supposed to do, like we've done over the last 5 years, once a kid knows, oh shit, Dave just did it on this guy. Oh, I gotta check out his program. Kid look and see, damn, they won a national championship. They done did this and did that. Oh, I'm getting one of those emails. I tell you, I'll be texting you next week like, yo, man, I got like 17 new emails on my Penn State account because, you know, the buzz, you know, it sells. Our program sells itself. You know, thank God. You know, it wasn't like that. Had I got this job now, the way it was 5 years ago before I got here, shit, I'd be in trouble, dude. I would be in trouble, Dave. But we've built it, you know, and as the saying goes, you build it, they'll come, you know. But like I said, the Kais and the Tippies and the Nate Blues, JB, James Barrett and those guys, and you and a lot of guys you talk about, I ain't gonna lie, I know I ain't got no chance in hell to get. I might got to. You've created a platform, and you guys have created a platform. Coaches and writers and the aficionados of the game to allow us an opportunity to see basketball through you guys' lenses, to give us a chance to get the kids that we want and kids that we need. So much respect to you, you as well. Mm-hmm. You got to get somebody to come on here and interview you.
Nah, I actually got something scheduled for this week. I think it's Wednesday, but that's neither here nor there. So this is one of the questions that I'd love to ask before I lead up to the final question.
Okay.
If you could go back in a time machine to 1994. What would you tell a young LeShawn Hammett at 12 or 13 as he scores that 57-point game, as he scores 57 points in the middle school game, and is trying to navigate through the Patterson Projects and is coming of age in the South Bronx?
Knowing everything that I know now, if I could talk to 13-year-old me, I would tell, wow, that's a good question. I would tell 13-year-old me, don't take anything for granted. You're gonna make it. You just gotta work. And even when you're tired of working, just work. And trust your judgment. Trust your judgment. Other than my faith of just believing that God has a plan for you, don't question it. Those would be my things I would tell him. I would just say, you're gonna make it. You know, you just gotta work. And when you get tired of working, just keep working. And just don't take this shit for granted. Because I think a lot of times in life, that's what we do. Trust my judgment, because I think the decisions that I made growing up created the person that I am today. But just go. Like, you got it. Like, I think the biggest thing that I would whisper in my ear is like, you're gonna make it, you know, and just go. And because I know that, had I known that, you know, because everything you do is you always think about, am I gonna fail? Am I gonna succeed? You know, I don't live life like that now. You know, I had a conversation with a close friend of mine the other day. I said, I don't know if the national championship changed me. We were joking. I said, I don't know if the national championship changed me, but I go into every interview. Every interview I've done, as far as like, because I've turned some coaching jobs down. I've applied for, I've been in the running for some Division I jobs, some top Division II jobs. I've done podcasts. I did talk to kids. And I said to him, I said, I don't know if the national championship changed me, but I walk around with a sense of I can't fail at nothing. Whatever I'm gonna do, I'm gonna win, just because I don't know how to lose, and I work too hard to lose. So I think the main thing that I would whisper in a young 13-year-old me is that, dude, you're gonna make it. Like, you just have to just keep going and just keep working. And if you do that, you're gonna make it. No one's gonna stop you. Like, I seen it. You're gonna make it. You know, and I think that's what scares the shit out of a lot of people in life, not just basketball, but in life. I think a lot of people just are so scared to fail that they fail trying to avoid failing. And I think in life, for me now, I walk around with this thought process. Was like, I got it. I got the glow. I'm an 80s kid, so the last Dragon, he had the glow when he beat Show Enough. I got the glow. Like, I can't fail, because I just got it. You know, I got the blueprint to succeed. And I think growing up, you know, when you in Patterson and you're growing up, period, you just try and find, you just try and navigate through it all, and just you're trying to stay alive. 2, you're trying to stay away from all the negative, and 3, you just trying to figure it out, and had somebody whispered in my ear, I had coaches do it, but to have somebody to really think like, all right, I'm going to make it. I don't got to question St. Raymond's. Just stay here. You're going to make it. I don't got to question Laurinburg. Just do this. You're going to make it. I don't got to question this. Just go ahead. And I think growing up, as a kid, you always, you fear to fail, And I've had moments in life where it's like, all right, we talked about Mount Carmel earlier in the thing. If I go, maybe it was, I think a younger me probably looked at it as, if I go there, I won't be, what if I don't score the many points that I score here? Now I failed. Instead of me just looking at it, was like, I'm going to play at the Kentucky of junior high schools. And all I got to do is go there and just do your thing. So that's my thing. Just don't, you're going to make it. Keep going. Work. And when you when you feel like you can't work no more, work harder.
Indeed. You know? Final question. What's next in the future for LeShawn Hammett and the Penn State Wilkes Barre Lions?
More national championships. I watched Michael Jordan's documentary. I think we've all seen The Last Dance. I'm born a Lakers fan, so I've watched us get back-to-back championships. I grew up in the Jordan era where they won back-to-backs. Although COVID and everything else prevented us from, going back-to-back. For me, we're gonna win it. It's the hardest one was the first one, because you gotta, as much experience as I had, it's still no experience until you get it. One thing's for certain, two things for sure, I know to win. I know what drives players to win. I know what drives players to be successful. I know what it takes. I know how many hours it takes. I got the answers to all the tests. I got the answers to the test. So for me and Penn State Wilkes Barre is more another national championship. And then once we get that one, get on here with you again and win another one. But we got the blueprint to win national championships. We got the answers to the test. I'm really excited about this team that we got right now. I think we're younger. We're built to win. I think we have the experience to. I think we don't have the experience that we had on that national championship team, but the coaches do. Mm-hmm. We've got some players that have been to a national tournament, but the coaches have won national championships. And this coaching staff has been together. Unfortunately, Pops is gone, but this coaching staff has been together for 6 years. So this coaching staff is built to do exactly what we're supposed to do. But more national championships, more conference championships, more All-Americans, potentially move up a level, because that's something we've talked about, and to make this program the Kentucky of not just the USCAA, of small college, where we produce more pros in a certain amount of time than anybody else, and I think we're on our way to do that, and continuing graduating players. I think this is. I want to make this one of the greatest basketball programs in small college history. The only way that changes is if some AD is crazy enough to offer me a job and the money's good and the weather's good and I got to go. But then I'm taking all the guys that was there with me, mm-hmm. But until then, because I think God orders the steps of your life. Until then, make this the greatest small college basketball program in the history of basketball. And in my opinion, over the last 5 years, I think we've proven that. I think there are some teams out there that you could debate it, but the fact that we're in that conversation is just good enough for me. Mm-hmm. Everybody says Kobe, Mike, LeBron, just to have your name in that number to me is good enough. No one's saying somebody else's name. They're saying those. They ain't saying Blake Griffin. They're saying Kobe, Mike, and LeBron. So, that's it. More national championships, more MVPs, more guys getting individual success, more pros, more college graduates. Definitely more championships. Definitely want to bring one home for my dad. I won one with him. I have his ring with me. I look at it all the time. I look at the pictures all the time. Earlier, we were sitting in front of a whole wall full of pictures of me and him and our success. And, but I want to win another one for him. Mm. I want to win one, and I want to win one in honor of him. I won one for him already, so the next one is in honor of him.
Well said, Coach. Thank you for coming on to share your testimonial, and I wish you and Penn State Wilkes Barre nothing but the best moving forward.
Hey man, I appreciate you 100%. I thank you for opening your platform to me. I'm very humbled and honored. Like I said, you bring up the best of the best. I guess now I'm officially a Dave Joint alum.
You are now, yeah.
But I'm humble. I was speechless. The day you text me and said, "Hey, let's let's get on here. I'm sorry we couldn't get on here last week. I was
that's fine.
doing
Listen,
a bunch of stuff. I had them painting.
we're all good. We're all good. I got time.
But I thank you. Definitely don't be a stranger, man. If you need advice, if there's anything I can help with, if it's anything, if it's just talk basketball, I'm always here, man. Definitely got to get you to a game at some point. But working. I'm working.
Of course.
I'm about to get on my in a few months. I'm gonna get on my LeVar Ball shit. I'm gonna start calling out some of these New York schools because these New York D2s won't play us. They'll
hey.
You get on the phone with them and it's like, hey, I'll get back to you with a date and a time, and you never hear from them. So I guess the only way,
is to
I'm
call
not gonna say
yeah.
I'm not gonna say the friend's name because I know he'll be like, why you put me on blast? Even though I don't think he really would care. But if you see me go on a Twitter rant one day, just like my tweet. But I might have to call some guys out through social media to maybe get them to put up a schedule. But the plan is to get the 4 D1 games back next year and come up here and play 2 Division II schools. Yeah. So if I can get the 2 Division II schools, I got 5 or 6 New York guys on the roster. So the goal is to get these guys to come back for, a home game. When I was at Cecil, we used to play Monroe every year. We would come up here and play Monroe. So I haven't coached a game here in New York in 6 years. So I'm going to try to get a game. You got your press pass, but even if you want to come one day, I'll make sure you got tickets to even come down and just enjoy it.
Yeah, but, I'll take that trip. I'll take that Greyhound bus to Wilkes Barre. It's nothing.
Yeah, you got a place to stay. You can stay with me, man. I'll show you a good time up there.
All right,
but
cool.
I'm humbled by this. I appreciate it, man. You got a brother and a friend in me, man. If there's anything I can ever do, just let me know. I know a lot of guys say that, but I really mean that. I mean, you're doing a great job with New York. You got to cover some more underground guys up here.
Of course,
There's a lot of talent up here, man.
My keyboard and my camera, my laptop, my camera, wherever there's a good game, I will definitely pop out.
Now I know it's hard. I know it's hard because you're only one person, but there's some kids I'll be seeing sometime. I'm like, how the hell? Now in a positive way, I'm like, how the hell? I don't know nothing about this kid, but I'll be like, this is perfect. No, if I don't know nothing about him, then nobody do because I go to a lot of games, but definitely, man, some of these dominant. I won't say dominant and rough, but some of these unsigned, there's some kids out here, man. You got to catch them. For sure. But you're doing a great job, man. I remember when you first was getting started and said what you was going to do. So to see where it is now, and I think that was like 5 or 6 years ago.
5 years, that's correct. Yeah.
Yeah, because I got on social media about 5, 6 years ago, and I had posted something, I think it was about 183, and you was like, I went there and we talked. And you was like, listen, I'm about to do this, and this. And you brought it to fruition, man. So just keep going, man.
Indeed.
Soon, I want to be in the airport one day and see Dave's joint on the magazine like Slam. Yeah. Man.
Indeed. Well, everybody, this is episode 88 of Hoops Talk with Dave's Joint. Shout out to our sponsors, the Players Circle. Definitely download that on the I'm
gonna check that out. As soon as we get off here.
But also, guys, for those of you guys that know and support my good friend LeShawn Hammett, for those of y'all from the Bronx, Patterson Projects, St. Francis University, Laurinburg Instiute, and also Penn State University, Wilkes Barre, and Cecil College. Check out this interview on YouTube, Facebook, and IGTV. And also, this episode will be dedicated to the memory of the late, great Leroy Pops Hammett.
Yes, sir. Appreciate that.
Stay safe, stay blessed. Peace.
Peace.